And welcome back to Mixed Media. We are back again for an awesome Monday full of all the fun things that we do on this show, which is talk about art, talk about movies, music, and gaming. Primarily, but also some other things sometimes, and that's what makes this show fun. Is it's truly a variety show, a variety of things surrounding those topics that we just want to talk about, we like to talk about, and perhaps you'll find very interesting. So before we begin, let's introduce ourselves. So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I repeated that again. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur, and I own a company called Ariella based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
Hi, I'm Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and a media composer.
And I'm Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and video game developer.
Okay, and before we begin, we have to welcome to the locals community Alex. I don't know if he wants us to use his full name, so I'll leave his last name out. But Alex from our Discord has been a vocal member for a bit now, and he's joined our locals page. So thank you so much adding to our locals ranks, which really, really helps a lot. Now that we've sort of broken even, his $5 a month is like the first $5 a month that we're actually making, which is fantastic. And that money, $5 in terms of, personal income a month is absolutely nothing, obviously, but in terms of helping the podcast out means a lot. And so if you want to join him, you can go to mixedmedia.locals.com or mixedmediapodcast.com, and that also means I get to shout out our 4 other local supporters. So we have 5 now. That's fantastic. So we've got Rob Sharma, 99 Crime, and Post, and Kairos, who's in the chat right now. He said he'll be back in 20 minutes. Thank you guys so much. It means a lot. And our Discord group has been a good time. I'm sorry I haven't been as interactive like the last week or so. That's just because craziness, but I really like reading. I read everything regardless of whether I end up having time to respond, and that's oftentimes because I want to give like 3 paragraphs of response. So yeah, that's why I end up withholding sometimes.
Honestly, we might, with all the messages in the past week about dancing and fighting based on Lindy Hop dance moves, might need to just like separate that from music and move that all to a dance channel.
Yeah, actually, why not? Why not have a dance channel? That sounds fun. Honestly, like, I would love to have like so many, like, you know, it being mixed media. You know, if we have dance, we've got like, if we got some visual artists out there who want to talk about
some
like,
sculptors out there.
Yeah, seriously though, like I want it all. You know, it's awesome to see. I mean, come on. Lindy Hop fighting game. Who comes up with that stuff except for our Discord? Except for our Discord community. It's like absolutely fantastic. So if you want to join that community, link in the description. Yeah. So with that, how was your guys' weeks?
We're gonna say something first. Okay, sorry.
Yes,
I guess it doesn't really matter. I don't know. Yeah, my week was all right. I rediscovered a coding project I had worked on and I forgot about it. It's like a hover cart game prototype, and like I was under the impression that I was working on a hover car game at some point. I couldn't figure out the physics, and at some point I was like, "Dang, that's hard. That's tough." And I just moved on with my life. But then, like, I don't know what happened. I know what happened. I was trying to I was working on I was thinking about a different prototype, and so for a different concept, and so I wanted a build of Godot, which is a game engine with Lua script support. Lua script is a programming language, and Godot does not natively support that. And there's a community-made module that allows it to be a thing. So I was like, all right, let me build Godot with Lua on it for this project. And long story short, it didn't work. But at least I think there's 2 Lua implementations. The one I tried didn't work. It's I think currently being rewritten and stuff. So I think I just tried it at the wrong time. But yeah, I don't know. I had opened Godot and I was looking at my project folders. I was like, wait, So I have one project called like Hover Car or something like that, or Hover, I think it is. And one called Hover 2. I was like, wait, doesn't Hover 2 actually work? I forgot. And then I opened Hover 2. I was like, oh, I have a working like actual like hover car thing going on here.
Oh, dang. Okay.
I just forgot. I don't know why. My brain, I never actually figured it out. So yeah, I'll be working on that now. I guess yeah, I made a little like track prototyping tool, like a spline editor that can make like track. So yeah, it's interesting. But that's been my week.
Cool.
Yeah, I've been, just kind of busy with a bunch of different things, and then also probably spending too much time on listening to some audiobooks of some the recent Timothy Zahn Thrawn, the two Thrawn trilogies, in preparation for Ahsoka, which is coming out on Disney Plus in I think August 23rd.
Okay.
None of them will be relevant, although they ought to be. But that's how Disney is kind of operates in these days with Star Wars. But quite entertaining anyway. Timothy Zahn is a very good writer.
Cool. Yeah, and 99 Crime says in the chat, Hover 2 game release when?
Not for any near future timelines, unfortunately. But like, we think about it, it's kind of like we have like a lot of racing games, right? But like, they're like mostly there's like two types, kind of, right? There's like I might have spoken about this before. I don't remember. Like a lot of them are more in terms of like thematically, right? They're like more realistic or grounded in that you have like the cars are used to seeing racing, whether it's like street racing or F1 racing or stock car racing, whatever it is, right? And you have your like I forget what these racing games are called, with the Mario Kart and like Lego Racers type game. They have a name, sort of subgenre of racing. Kart racing, kart racer. Yeah, you have your kart racers. Well, like that's it. What happens to like any sort of imagination that you can put into a racing game? Come on, it's like the video game industry. You can do anything you want. But I mean, obviously, okay, technically, like there are hover cars in racing games. F-Zero, for example, right? I'm pretty sure. Oh yeah, Captain Falcon does hover, right? Yeah, fairly certain that is how that works. But like. Not, and there's no like, as far as I'm aware, a modern rendition of a like a Forza type game, but like you're hovering. So which I think could introduce a lot of cool things. So yeah.
Sweet. Oh, by the way, was that it, Ben? I didn't mean to cut you off. Okay, gotcha.
Oh yeah, that's all I had.
Cool. And I see some people filtering in. Welcome. Just so you guys know, the order of business today, or usually almost every time, is we talk about our weeks, some news, some casual chat, talk to our wonderful supporters in the chat, etc. Then we go on to our first topic, which today will be about movie theaters. Then after that, we will do an Arguing with Reddit segment, which is basically like a little game we play where we pull hot takes from Reddit for each other to react to. You'll see how it goes later. And last, but not least for sure, we're going to be talking about LA Noire. Ben will be talking about that, the music specifically from that game. So that's the order of business. I should probably have a live tile for the opening segment. That's been a thing in my mind for a while now. So that should make it a little bit clear. But in terms of my week, I had some major tech upgrades to my kit. So let me show you something wild right now. Let's see here. How do I do this? Oh no, is it not going to work? Hold on. Maybe an embarrassment instead. Hold on. There we go. There we go. That was all drawn with this beautiful pen on my new tablet that I spent way too much money on. I got the new tab S9 Ultra, I believe. And not only did I get the S9 Ultra, which is the top of the line, I got the highest model, which is insane. Like, most people should never do that. Except I have very specific reasons to be doing that on my end. Part of which has to do with something I've been working on, which, if you didn't know, I'm going to be going to Dallas late September and doing a scan of Dealey Plaza with some awesome tech. You should go to my YouTube channel. If you look up my name, you'll find it. And I need a tablet specifically because the software doesn't run on desktop, which is idiotic. It's mobile only. And I need as much RAM as possible. So this tablet's got 16 gigs of RAM, which is stupid for a tablet. It's just, you don't need that for a tablet, except I need that to scan 400,000 square feet of space. So, yeah. The other cool thing about it is that I can now use the live whiteboard and it not look absolutely trash, which I'm kind of excited for, and so expect more writing demonstrations. And thirdly, I had to revamp my entire desk setup, which I can't. I wish I could just, like, flip my camera around easily and show you. But I've got, like, 2 monitors. I got a vertical monitor to my right. I've got a super wide monitor in the middle. And I've got my camera attached to a pole. And I've got a light attached on top and a mic attached to the pole. There's, like, a whole pole system here going on with a bunch of arms. It looks crazy. But I added the tablet to the pole system, added an arm for it, so I can swing it in and out. But here's the coolest part. I found out that this tablet can be my 3rd monitor. So I can actually pipe video signal from my desktop onto my tablet, which that was the biggest surprise and most important surprise because I do a lot of color grading. And I love to do color grading. And that tablet's actually the most accurate display of the 3 displays that I have. So while
the tablet's the most accurate display?
Oh, by far. Like, it's not even close.
How did that happen? How did that?
Mobile displays are great. Yeah, mobile displays are fantastic. That they put a lot of money into the it's like a big selling point of these things. So,
but a monitor's job is to display things, right? That's like the only function. There's no other function it does, right?
No, but if you want it, let me put it this way. This tablet, which is way too expensive and you shouldn't buy it, is $1,500. Right? So it's just stupid. Like, don't spend that kind of money on a tablet for any other reason except for me. But if I were to buy a monitor of this size, because this is a big tablet, like, it's literally... Like, I actually can't fit it in the screen. It's a huge tablet. Like, it's not a normal size tablet. And if I were to buy a video monitor that was this accurate for my camera, which I can also connect it to, if I were to do that, it would probably cost me $1,000. So the fact that it's $1,500, but I get computing, right, and I get a whole bunch of functionality, actually, from my perspective, makes a lot of sense. But is otherwise stupid, so don't do it. And this will be my laptop, basically, for the foreseeable future as well, because I don't have a laptop. I borrow my wife's. So
maybe it'd be a good thing also for people who draw.
Oh, it's a great... Oh, yeah, 99 Crime says graphics tablet, so cool. That's a lot of beans for a tablet. Yeah, it was really painful. I actually had buyer's remorse while it was in shipping. I was like, why on earth did I do this? And I was like, maybe I was too impulsive because I wanted the Dealey Plaza project to succeed so bad, like maybe I was too impulsive or whatever. Then I got it. And this thing does, like, everything. Like, it does way more things than I thought it would.
Wait, can you show it? Do you not have it, like, with you at the moment?
It's mounted on the... I can show the back of it easily by moving the arm.
Oh, you have an arm for it.
Oh, actually, maybe I can swing it around all the way. Okay, it's too close to the camera. But, yeah, so I have it on an ARM system, and expect the live whiteboard to be used more as a result.
Nice.
So,
speaking of setup upgrades, I've now that I have a job, I probably should like acquire like a camera that's not like 15 FPS or something. That'd be kind of useful. I feel like I don't know. How's my mic quality, by the way? I don't know if I'm on the right mic.
Your mic is. okay enough, but the problem is your room. Like that's like the biggest problem.
Okay. Well, we move into college, and I will actually be making use of the. I've schemed this out, so I'll be actually making use of the recording like area we have at school. So presumably, you know, the room would be like padded or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I assume. I guess. Like I don't know anything about cameras, so I don't know. Like, are there good like portable cameras that I can just like slap onto my?
Do you need it for literally anything else, like for other content creation?
I mean, no, not like now at least. But, you know, like something that like maybe will also be useful else. You know, like I mean, I presume if it's something useful for the podcast, it could be used elsewhere. So,
action cameras are pretty underrated, I would say. Like,
what is an action camera? Is that like a GoPro? Like, what is
like
that?
a GoPro, or like if you're, I'm trying to go as cheap as possible, if that's what you're going for.
How much do those things like cost?
It varies depending on the model. So like I think it can be as little as like maybe $300 and maybe as much as $500. I'm not actually sure. You'd have to check it. But I would actually recommend for like general content, if you want to go step up, I would get the Insta360 just like I have. Get a 360 camera because it comes with two modules, like a regular camera and a 360 camera. And the regular camera you can use as a webcam super easily, and the video quality is actually pretty. It's like the equivalent to the highest level GoPro basically. So it's not gonna be like, you know.
How much would that cost?
Cinematic, but that costs like maybe $550, something like that. So
Interesting.
yeah. Obviously, at that price, you have to start thinking about like, okay, that versus spending $800 for a mirrorless camera, and well, the lens actually is going to be a problem for you. So maybe not. I don't know.
I did not know cameras were that expensive, by the way. So
okay.
keep that in
mind. look for a cheap GoPro. That might be the best solution.
All right, I'll look into it.
Yeah. Okay. How about industry news?
Sure. Baldur's Gate 3 came out and broke some records. It is, let's see, where's it lie on the list? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th. So it is number 7 in ranking for most peak players for any game. And it's kind of crazy how this record keeps getting beaten over and over again. Like, it is not that uncommon for this thing to be beaten. It's kind of crazy. It peaked at 875,000 concurrent players at some point. Right now, it's sitting at 609,000. That's crazy. So, yeah, that's what's going on.
Cool. Anything in music?
Yeah, music news. I guess the most interesting thing I noticed is that apparently Google is in separate talks with both Universal Music and the Warner Music Group to develop AI-generated music tools. And apparently
selling the library.
Apparently what they are discussing doing is allowing artists to opt in to allowing their likeness and their voice to be used for AI generated content. And the idea right now is that it would be a voluntary thing. Right? You can choose to allow your voice and your sound or likeness to be used, and you should get some small bit of copyright royalty, some kind of royalty compensation somehow. How that would work, I don't know. But you do not have to do that. Yeah, so that is the I guess that's something that Google is really going for. What the ultimate effect of that would be on the industry, I don't know. Will that should these these talks come to actual agreements? will it actually be a win-win for artists in the long term? I am kind of somewhat skeptical, but I don't know. It's hard to. I personally am skeptical about AI for a lot of these things, so I don't know.
Fair. Very fair. Yeah. That reminds me, actually, I haven't checked up on the Stable Diffusion lawsuit to see if there were any updates, so maybe I should do that for a future update. Because they just, I mean, it seems like, without proper response just yet, it seems like they might have stolen a ton of images to make their image generating stuff, if you didn't know. So I'm very curious to see how that will play out, because that could shake up the entire AI industry entirely. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. So I guess Google wants to kind of skirt around that by giving the appearance of choice, right? And you can choose whether we'll use you or not. Yeah. Whether my guess though is that in the future will be a lot of pressure to opt in. It'd be very hard to opt out, probably.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. For me, I found out recently that Rumble, and shout out to you people on Rumble, has now 6% market share of the video industry, which should sound like the 6% as a percentage sounds small, but you don't understand.
That's large.
Massive. Like that's absolutely gigantic. And they've signed on some crazy content creators lately with like millions of subs on YouTube. They've signed them on for exclusive content, for partly exclusive. They're doing all kinds of like very flexible deals, which is being very inviting to all those content creators coming on the platform. I didn't expect Rice Gum to be one of their
ancient relic of YouTube cast.
Right, exactly. But these people, like, they posted some videos reviewing their experience on Rumble, and they've talked a lot about how sometimes they get a lot more engagement and views on Rumble even than on their YouTube channels, which is so crazy. Like that's just a crazy concept. Like people don't understand how much Rumble is absolutely being the thorn in the side of YouTube. It's getting to a point where YouTube should be terrified, absolutely terrified, and they should be. So congrats to Rumble on that fact there. And the second thing is
real quick. Do you know like what the YouTube market share is? Like is there like any percentage given to some third party or some third thing in this?
I'm not sure, but the vast majority is going to be YouTube, of course. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm not entirely sure. But the second piece of news, it comes from AMC. AMC recently had an earnings call that kind of made some headlines, and they were talking about their second quarter success, which is basically Sound of Freedom, Barbenheimer, craziness. Those three films, boosted their revenue sheet quite a lot. But I will be talking more about theaters in depth in my segment, so I won't go any further than that, other than that they've said they're going to have liquidity issues, which we're going to talk about that. So that's it. I guess we're talking about it now, basically.
Let's go.
Sweet. Well, if you're new to the show, that's the end of our opening segment, our little news talky chat segment. Right after, we're going to be talking about how to fix movie theaters. That'll be my segment. I'm going to give you 20 plus ways how we could do that in a sort of a interesting, from the scale of like interesting and niche to surefire and why don't they do this, they're so stupid. On that sort of scale. And then afterwards, we're going to be doing Arguing with Reddit, and then finally we'll talk about LA Noire's music featuring Ben. So that'll be the order for today, and here we go into our first segment.
Mixed Media Movies.
And welcome back to Mixed Media. If you've been here, thank you for sticking around, and if you haven't or you're not watching the live show right now, we totally invite you to. All the links are in the description of wherever you're listening to this right now. Before we continue, we'll reintroduce ourselves to make sure that everyone knows who the heck we are. My name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
Hi, I'm Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer.
I'm Nathan Nestor, a 3D modeler and video game developer.
Sweet. And today we're talking about movie theaters. And this discussion is kind of born out of a Discord discussion from a long time ago, that a back and forth I had with Ben, actually, about adding live music to movie theaters. That was like maybe 4 months ago. And we're talking about some of the sort of the hows and the whats and all this kind of stuff. And then I added this topic to my roster to cover eventually. Then I started to put together the episode. Then I was like, actually, this is going to have to be broken down into two parts, probably. One on a general level, and one to specifically talking about the one interesting business model that we were discussing on the Discord. So that's going to actually come probably next topic section that I have when I have more time to run down the numbers. And probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to present it to you in a way, because like I've said many times on the show, a lot of artists aren't business oriented, and it's one thing I'm really passionate about is sort of helping artists along on the business end of things. So that next episode will hopefully be educational on how you can sort of think through whether a venture is going to be profitable or not, and see sort of how you write out the line items and all this kind of stuff, how you should think about how much money you're spending, and these numbers can look astronomical until you understand how those numbers usually get achieved in business, generally speaking. So that'll be next episode. This episode is just sort of like a top level, just why the heck are movie theaters failing? And I want to pull up this article. Let's see here. I believe it's from The Hollywood Reporter. Yes. This is just the news that I was mentioning about like a moment ago on AMC's recent successes and their future projected issues. So let's see if I can pull this up cleanly. Oh, that's not clean. Let's try that. Okay, good enough. So it says AMC Theaters swings to profit, but CEO warns of potentially severe liquidity issues. So what we learned in this article is that earnings for the second quarter hit $8.6 million, which is abysmal, small. Like that's this is the largest theater chain in the country, but it's an improvement. It's an improvement, shockingly. Compared to the loss of $121 million. There you go. There's the improvement. Loss of $121 million last year in the same quarter, right? So there's a quarter-to-quarter comparison. And they saw a 12.2% gain in attendance year over year, which isn't as big as I would have expected, actually, because the I guess, talk on the street seems a lot more intense than the same time last year. So maybe it's just got people more jazzed, even though it's only 12.2%. Although that's a good number. And he credits the recent summer movies as being the reason for success. And then we got some stuff about liquidity issues. I think it's only slightly referenced here, so I won't find the exact quote. But basically says that everything's going great except we're having liquidity issues. So what are liquidity issues? Liquidity just means the ability to easily have cash on hand. And cash is useful because it's flexible. So think about liquid, like it flows and whatever. I don't know if that'll help you remember what liquidity is, right? Like it's just the ability to maneuver capital in any which way you want. So let's say you're a nonprofit and you have a grant that only allows you to, it gives you $2 million, which is fantastic, but it only allows you to spend it on cups for the office. That's not a very liquid grant, right? Like, there's not very many ways you can use it, right? Or let's say you're a business and you have many sources of revenue. Some of it is cash flow, some of it is from loans, from debt, and some of it's from investors, right? Some of that's more liquid than others. It's easier to turn into cash right, than other things. So when you hear we've got liquidity issues, one of the first things you should think of is we're having problems getting cash. And one of the first things you should think of when you think that, especially for a large national company like this one, is they must be having problems getting loans. That's like gotta be like one of the primary, reasons why there's liquidity issues. Obviously, cash flow is not there either because they only made 8.6 million or whatever it was. That's not that much, but there's also a loan issue. Why is there a loan issue? It's because the theaters were dumb in the last recession. They were really stupid. They overspent during a recession. If you don't know, there are a few companies that are infamous for doing this. One is AMC, the other is Six Flags, the amusement park company. And Six Flags, what they did was they said, well, we don't want to lose the coaster war, like the roller coaster war, which was a thing at the time. There's a heavy battle. It's documented in many documentaries, interesting stuff. But there was a heavy battle between different coaster manufacturers, parks, chains, all this kind of stuff to come out with the biggest, baddest stuff, no matter how much it costed, because they wanted to destroy their competition and be the last man standing, right? That was the business philosophy. It's really stupid business philosophy, but that's what it was. So during the recession, when their liquidity is starting to dry up, because banks are starting to tighten or fail, we've talked about that on the show before. So banks are hedging risk, and so they're giving out less loans. It's a sign of stress on the financial sector. They were still rolling up the sheet with expenses. AMC took the recession time, and I think really what happened, I haven't looked into it deeply, but probably what happened was they got scared that people weren't going to come to movies ever again, and so they overspent on revamping the seating, right? So if you have a local AMC theater, a lot of them, unless they're labeled AMC Classic, I believe, a lot of them got money from corporate through different programs to take out the old theater seating and replace it with those like reclining seats. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm curious, is the AMD Classic branding a way of making it sound good to not have renovated seating?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Nice.
Those theaters were intelligent, by the way, in some sense. This money is well spent. Like, the seating upgrade was absolutely needed, and it's well spent. It's a much better experience. They weren't wrong in the product upgrade. What they were wrong about was the timing. The timing was absolutely wrong. They should have figured out other ways to keep people engaged at the cinema. And we'll be talking about that because these ways basically have never been explored because these people have no imagination. So that's the core problem here. So AMC, regardless of its comeback, is having liquidity issues, and it cannot spend on upgrading itself. That is the major problem. It can't take the money, put it back into the business, and sort of restart the perpetual motion machine, so to speak, right? It can't restart it. There's no starter kick to the whole thing. So that's the problem. And it's not just AMC, it's all the theaters. AMC is just the largest one, so I always use it as the example. And everyone's always paying attention to what AMC is doing. Now that we know that's the bare economic situation, obviously there's a whole bunch of other reasons why AMC is even in this position to begin with, but we've talked about that on the show several times. You can look up a plethora of shows about the demise of cinema and blah, 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 blah. We're going to be a little bit more confined this time. So there's that. Now, the next thing, which is a little bit of general context, is there is the legal situation of theaters as a whole, which kind of explains why they don't act like the big monopolistic, companies that we have now, which is they were never allowed to have their own studios, right? So they were never allowed to make their own movies because this was considered a trust. And I won't go into the law and all that kind of stuff. There's a famous case where this happened. And basically, cinemas tried to make their own movies, and the court said, no, you can't do that. You would be a trust at that point. And so theaters never made their own movies, which actually makes a huge difference in their economic trajectory. Y'all know I'm not against trust busting per se, but improper trust busting is bad, obviously, or unequal trust busting is even worse. You kind of hand over the spoils to another party, right? That's the big issue there. So what ended up happening over time is all these other trusts, namely big tech, came around and made streaming, right? So streaming became a thing, and then these theaters had no means to create their own content. They had to rely on these people who were trying to kill them, effectively, right? So Disney's trying to kill them on behalf of Disney Plus, Amazon's trying to kill them on behalf of Prime, Netflix is trying to kill them on behalf of Netflix, so on and so forth. HBO with HBO Max. You get the idea. They've got all these enemies popping up, but they rely on them for content to put in the theater. That's the issue. So they get bullied because they have no leverage, right? So the first thing number one, we can do to save the cinema, and I think this is the most important thing, is production independence. They need to get production independence. They need to change the economic fabric of how movies are made and distributed. They need to stop trying to care about what big IP franchises are going to be on the streaming platforms only, and shrinking their time, and all these crazy abusive contracts that they sign with Disney that guarantee that Disney will overcrowd the box office and not allow anything but Disney to be playing in certain weeks. I mean, it's crazy stuff. They need to get out of that abusive relationship. But how on earth are they supposed to do it if they don't have their own content? Well, they need to find their own content. Can I give me 1 second? I have to go do something real quick. Hold on. You guys fill in the show real quick. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, his camera went crazy. It's a poor place to freeze frame. Any thoughts?
Nothing in particular. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to think, what was the last film I saw in a theater?
I haven't been to the movie theater in a very, very long time. But I mean, this is heretical, for the podcast, but I don't really watch that many movies, so that's really why it's not like a movie theater type thing.
I think the last film I saw in theaters was Nope.
That's by the guy who made Get Out?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. How long ago was that?
Was that last summer, or was that? It was one of the times when I was home during break, so I can't remember if that was last summer or. I think it was last summer.
Gotcha. Yeah, man, I can't even remember last time I was in the movie theater.
Yeah, it came out July 22nd, 2022. So last summer. Not a film I particularly enjoyed. Not my style of film.
Mm-hmm. I think the last movie I saw in the theater was The Batman. So it's actually more recent than I thought it's gonna be. I saw The Batman. Yeah, it was in the movie theater. Okay. And then, man, because the thing I was thinking before that, I was thinking The Force Awakens, which was quite a while ago. But it seems that wasn't the last one. Force Awakens was, that was 2015. Yeah, wait, it's 2015. Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Why does it feel so much more recent than that? Wow, I would have guessed like 2018 or something like that. That's really weird.
No. 2017 was Episode 8, The Last Jedi, and then 2018 was Solo, and 2019 was The Rise of Skywalker.
Okay, I see. Huh. Well, I must have seen something between that and the Batman, almost surely. Like, I don't think I spent that long entering a movie theater. I can't think of what I would have seen. Black Panther came out in 2018, so I would have seen that at least. Let's see, when did this come out? No, I can't beforehand. My time feels very distorted with movies. I was thinking it was possible that Guardians of the Galaxy came out after Force Awakens, when it came out a year before. So,
909 Crime says Nope is also the last film they saw in theaters. And Kai Cairo says, was it well made? 909 Crime says, Nope was very, very well made in my opinion. I agree. I think it was well made. It's just not a genre kind of topic that I like.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I think I feel like we talked about this when it came out, like my opinion of it. Yeah, I think it was well done, but just not the kind of like the way that in which it is, parts of it are shot are just kind of, it's kind of like almost first person violence, and that's kind of disturbing. I mean, intentionally so, but I don't like that. I don't like horror films. Like I'll watch like the Vikings series on Amazon, or is it on Amazon? Things like that. Like you can get a lot of like blood or whatever. That's fine, but that's like third person violence. But if it's first person violence, I don't like that.
How do you feel about first person video games that are violent?
Well, mostly they're first person violence where you are doing the violence.
Oh, and Nope is like you are.
It's like you're the perspective of somebody who is being the object of violence.
I see.
Yeah. Or like you're hiding from the person doing the violence while you're watching everybody else being slaughtered.
Oh, that sounds very horror movie like.
In certain parts of it, yes. Yeah, I don't. That's different than like first person video game. You are doing the violence. That's a different.
It depends on the game. Sure. Oh, okay. So like, I mean, typically there's also violence being done to you, although it's very, typically very impersonal in a way. But it does depend on the game. I guess definitely like horror games like Dead Space, for example. You're definitely in that sort of perspective, I guess. So yeah, I guess that's a thing with horror games too. But like, it reminds me of like The Last of Us as well, where if I recall correctly, if you die, then stuff like that, it kind of thing could happen. But I don't think I would consider. I mean, Last of Us is a zombie game, but I don't think I would consider it a horror game per se. Like, it's not like. I feel like the main emotion it's trying to elicit is not fear. I think I guess it has horror elements. So yeah. But yeah,
I'm back. Sorry about that.
That's all good.
What did you guys talk about while I was gone?
We eventually got onto talking about Nope and first person versus third person violence.
First person versus third person violence? What the heck does that mean?
Like, it's one thing, to me, that's the way I described it, where like, you're watching something and it's like a violent film, there's a lot of blood, but like, it's just between characters, like you're just observing it, as like Ben, the viewer, right? Versus some of the scenes in Nope where the camera is placing you as a
Ah.
character who is an object of violence or is hiding from somebody else committing violence towards other people. And I consider that, I call that first person violence.
Interesting. Cool. Oh, sorry about that. Let's see here. Where was I? I was talking. Oh, production independence. That's what I was talking about. Actually, can I live list my list on the whiteboard easily now? Maybe. Let's see here. Oh my! Why is it not working? Oh, I'm not in the right layer. That's the problem. How do I get into my layer?
Yeah, you double click it, right, or something.
Yeah, but like my layer is not showing. What the heck?
Like it's like hidden. You're saying?
I think.
Is it-
Maybe I deleted it by accident at some point. I don't know.
Oh, like it's not even showing in the list. You're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe just make a new layer. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. I don't even remember how to do that. It's been a while. Hold on. No.
We have to make a layer for Alex as well.
Oh, we do have to make a layer for Alex. This is absolutely true.
At some point, the layers are going to get out of hand. But for now, it's fine.
Let's try this. Does this work? No, it doesn't. What the? Oh, okay. Something's wrong with the live whiteboard.
Right, the moment we get a drawing tablet, it breaks.
Right? What the heck? Like, literally, it's just not working. Okay, whatever. Okay, let's see. So, production independence. So, the way that we get production independence is by movie theaters starting to create their own pipeline by changing the dynamics between the producer and the distributor. Right? Well, how do they do this? Part of how they do this is by challenging the ecosystem. Oh, Ben can do it. Why can't I do it? What on earth? Is it something about me being on a tablet? Let me refresh. Oh yeah, I refreshed and it worked. Okay, it was a glitch. So we got production independence. I write it under the hello.
You know, I have a drawing tablet too. I just have nowhere to put it in this setup where it makes sense. Which is kind of annoying.
Yeah. Oh, Ben, you're muted.
I like how, Irving, you have this fancy looking script, and I just have this like awful blocky looking hello.
If that was with
pretty
your
good for
mouse,
a
that was
mouse
pretty
writing.
impressive. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so the way they do this is by challenging the status quo on how movies are produced, which is a complicated subject for another day. But the short of it is that movie production is probably over-bloated. I know that would make a lot of crew members very sad. but it's just the sad reality is a lot of productions could be done a lot smaller. Obviously, if you're making something gigantic, you know, the traditional setup is going to be the way to go. But there's a lot of movies that are even made in the mainstream that probably didn't need the size crews that they had. But that's a whole complicated subject for another day. The other thing is to start pushing your own pipeline. Now, legally speaking, you probably should be in the clear now for a variety of reasons. That case is very, very old. I would not be afraid to challenge it and just reference my opponents as the prime example for why this is clearly incorrect today. But you need money. I don't think they're not doing it because of the legal issues anymore. I think the legal issues put them in a place where they hadn't done it before and had the, sort of snowball rolling on that. The issue is more like, do we put in money on it, given our financial struggles to begin with? To that, I have to say, there's something called the 90s. And in the 90s, there was a huge independent film movement that was highly successful, like mainstream based, independent, mainstream, whatever you want to call it. But these were like one-off indie filmmakers who were making it big time. One-off is the wrong word, but a lot of these people were first-time filmmakers. A lot of these people didn't have professional careers, and all of a sudden they landed these big movie projects. This was like the era of the dream where you could go into the studio office with a script, right? And you could like hand them the script, and if it was you could maybe not expect, but there was actually a chance, that when they read it, they weren't just going to toss it in the trash and say, "Where are your 3 acts?" Or something like this. How are we supposed to fall in love with the characters if yada yada yada? That kind of thing was less likely to happen because there was like sort of an auteurs movement. And some of your favorite movies wouldn't have been made if it weren't for this movement.
They also weren't making films by like committee, and probably these days having AI tell them what they should write next.
Yeah, exactly. So so what you do is you start to make your own content, and you need to do it in the 90s style. You have no choice. I don't want to hear it. It's not even about me wanting that to be the case because indie film is awesome or something like this. Obviously, that's also a great byproduct, is getting real movies again. But the choice is simple. Everyone else is making algorithmic content. You make unexpected content. You be the conversation, right? You take over the social zeitgeist entirely by being counterculture. Not in the stupid, like, postmodern, flippant way, but, like, truly have things to say. Put on movies that truly have things to say that most filmmakers in Hollywood would be rejected out of Hollywood for saying them. Put those people on. And, obviously, caveat, whatever. But, like, you know what I mean. Put daring people on screen. And that doesn't have to cost you that much. Not today. There's a lot of feature films that are technically off-label films that are on YouTube and stuff like this with $3 million budgets that would absolutely rock your theater. And that's insane. That you're not buying those up after they've already been made, scouring YouTube and buying them up for $3 million. Come on, your balance sheet would be so balanced at that point. It'd be insane. Like, these people spend way more than that in getting distribution rights for these things. Like, astronomically more. Put these people on. Once you put these people on, these people become your de facto brand ambassadors. You don't think those people would love you to death? They'd go through they'd do anything to see you continue to succeed, to promote the theater, etc. The biggest weapon, and we've talked about this in a past episode, that the theaters have against these streaming platforms is they are way more profitable. And that sounds weird given what I just said about their situation. But if you look at the balance sheets of the streamers, technically on paper, they're losing way more money. They just have more liquidity. Right? That's actually the game. They have more liquidity than the theaters, so they're trying to destroy the theaters with their liquidity, with their superior liquidity. It's an economic war. It's not a war of who has the best whatever, who has the best MacGuffin or whatever, Like, it's a war over who can get more debt, who can crush each other with their monopolistic tactics, right? So how does AMC play the game if they don't have liquidity? They screw the game. I'm not playing this game anymore, They say, I'm going to do this in the most unorthodox way, and they don't have to do it immediately. They don't have to immediately switch over their entire roster to YouTube videos, right? Like, obviously. And by the way, just because something's on YouTube and it's not up to a professional standard in terms of, like, its output and stuff like this can all be massaged by hiring 3 post-production people to remaster the thing. So spend another, like, a few $100,000. Like, it's nothing. It's absolutely nothing to be able to do this. So that's one thing. Create your own pipeline. If you can't create your own studios, which even that I would advocate for, go find small studios and off-label creators and give them a platform. It will be so cheap, and it would have astronomical effects. Okay. So that, I think, is the biggest point. Second point, and this is in no particular order from here on out. I just wanted to mention that one as like the that's the most important one by far. Is they need to unhinge from the Disney system, which is effectively what it is. And they need to just unchain entirely. Okay, so what are some other ideas? Well, actually, I'll play well, I'll leave that to later. Let's see here. They need to engage the local culture. So we've got local culture. And they need to engage the local culture, the cultural scene, really, is what I mean. Like, they can't, like, when have you seen a theater outside of a theater? I'll wait. You know what I mean? Like, where have you seen a theater represent itself outside of the theater? Nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. You know? So when you're not in the theater, do you think about theaters at all? You're like, oh, I wonder what AMC's got going. No, you don't. Absolutely you don't. You're not in people's minds because you're not relevant. You're just a place where the big screen is for big movies. That's literally all you are right now. So, what you do is you involve yourself. To me, this is a no-brainer because it can cost literally nothing. Like, like maybe one employee is like, I don't know, maybe 6 hours a week, 8 hours a week. You have the staff. You might as well use them, you know, to do some interesting things. There are some people who you employ who would absolutely destroy on social media. They would just they would just be such a great local representation of your brand. Are you vetting for them? Are you looking for them? No, you're not. Because you guys have no imagination. So how do you do this local cultural thing? Let me give you some pointers. One thing you could do is you could be part of the local film scene, which I'm surprised because I'm in a very small town, literally 6,000 people. In my, like, I don't know, 3-mile radius, there's maybe 30,000 people, right? Very small area. In my area, there's a film scene. I found this literally recently, like maybe 2 weeks ago. I was like, I saw a flyer up and it was like, local production, like blah, blah. I was like, what? Local who are these people? So I went to their casting call, actually. The line was out the door for their casting call. I kid you not. These people came from all over the place, to my neighboring city of Shamokin. It's like literally 15 minutes down the road. Okay, that tells me there are film scenes in more places than I think there are. So, okay, maybe not every theater is engaged in their local film scene, but many of them could, right? Go to the film clubs and offer to do a presentation on projection. They'll love the crap out of that. Go to a local school who wants to do a presentation on film in the 50s and get children to be into older movies, you know, for you know, liberal arts reasons, right? Why don't you do that? There's someone in your staff who loves the heck out of movies who would love to do that. They would practically do it for free if you asked them to. So find that person on your staff who wants to do that. Another idea would be a lot of theaters have overbuilt parking. They're not overbuilt because it used to be that full or whatever. No, maybe they're that full like in the old days, like for like one premiere event or two premiere events a year, right? That's how they plan these parking lots. Is like, what's the peak parking we'll need so that we don't have parking issues, right? But, okay, you need that infrastructure potentially, especially if you come back and you get the Blockbuster thing going again. And okay, fine. What you don't need is a parking lot desert that looks empty and terrible when people drive past it, showing you that there's no social proof for going to the movie theater. There's a whole bunch of things about this kind of stuff, like mimetic desire. You can look up stuff like this, but weirdly enough, humans are weird enough that scarcity is proof. Scarcity of a thing is proof of its value, right? Like it's a weird concept, but when people see tons of stuff, tons of parking stalls filled almost to the brim, They're like, I've got to go to the theater. Right? Okay, so the opposite is when your parking lot is a desert, looks absolutely terrible, and it's got cracks all over the place and weeds growing out of all the cracks because you got no money. And I get that. But what's something that you could do for free in your desert parking lot? Well, you could do local culture fairs every weekend. Every weekday. Why not? Every weekend. You have stalls where people bring their own tents. They have paintings. They have photography. And if you don't think that's popular, go find your local one and go there. It will be packed. It will be packed. That place is packed more than the theater. So bring that to your empty lot. That's a freebie for you. That engages the local culture. And guess what? All those artists start to become free ambassadors for your theater, right? They start to sing your praises to everybody for putting them on, right? Okay. What's another thing that we can do? Well, we can make the theaters, this kind of goes hand in hand, houses of culture. And these houses of culture, what do I mean by that? I mean, basically, like the concept of an art house, right? Which to a lot of people sounds frou-frou or whatever. Ignore those people. It doesn't matter. You are the counterculture, right? People are like, oh, go to the art house. It's so frou-frou. Yeah. Guess what? You are not Netflix. If people want to go watch their cheap, whatever content, that's their brand now, is not that, right? That's like, as much as you can possibly be not that, is how you have to go. So what's an art house? An art house is a place where people go to consume culture at large, right? And again, we have to stop thinking in the vein of, how do I simply entertain people for one more butt in the seat? And we have to go towards, how do I fulfill people and give people an experience that they couldn't get anywhere else? Excuse me. An art house has to be capable of doing these things. One of those things that we can do very easily, and this would cost money, and it would be somewhat expensive, but it will, in the near term, be instant profit. You have in-house restaurant. This is dumb. How many movie theaters? There are a few. How many movie theaters have not a dining table like in the theater, like, you know, fancy thing? I mean, they have a separate in theater, like the entrance is inside the theater. There's a huge glass thing, and everyone can see inside this restaurant or cafe or whatever you want to call it. How many theaters have you seen that have that inside of it? Not that many. Maybe in the major metropolitan areas, like in the gigantic malls, there's like one, right? But like elsewhere, there's no food, in terms of real food. Oh, were you going to say something, Ben?
I was going to say I'm just thinking, at least like where I'm from in Maryland, all the theaters are like part of existing mall complexes where there are a billion food options anyway, including like major like sit-down restaurants like literally right next to it. So in that case, that's probably not much of an option.
I actually do. So maybe it's not as viable and not as obvious as it would be to theaters that are not. The one near me is not direct. It's next to food options, but you have to drive to get to them. You can't like walk to them. I would say actually that putting one in-house, that like one that like you're taking the distance between movie and restaurant and you're shortening it to the minimal. What people like to do, I've done this, and maybe people still do this, is movie and a date, right? Like movie and dinner, right? You get some food, you go to the theater. There's a lot of cool things that you might be able to do in your own in-house restaurant that the restaurant next door can't do. Part of it is, I don't know, having some theming to your dessert this week that's based off of a movie, or you could have like here's something art housey that might make some people who are allergic to good things vomit, which is, I don't know, have a once a week movie discussion happening inside the restaurant around a coffee table, and give people free coffee for their entry with their ticket for their movie, right? Like, you have to think out of the box, like, you know. But yeah, no, I agree. Like, around other food, it's a little bit more difficult. But if your theater is separate from those things, it's a no-brainer. Keep people in the complex, basically, is the idea. And make your whole experience a holistic one. Not just one where it's just, I'm going to see a movie, this is the input-output that gets that done, right? Let's see. So what else does an art house potentially have? Well, an art house might have multi-use space. So this is a big one, multi-use space. And multi-use space is going to be hard for the existing theaters to acquire because they've already got the infrastructure and they built it without thinking about flexibility, which, you know, it's hard to foresee that kind of stuff potentially, right? But if you're building a new theater, and we'll be talking about that again probably next time I have a topic segment, because I did the math including the cost of building a theater. If you're building a new theater, this is definitely something you can do, especially with today's technology, is you can have the seating be removable and or retractable, and or retractable flooring where the flooring goes all over the entire infrastructure. There's a lot of different ways you can achieve multi-use with your theater rooms. This allows you to use your spaces in times of low demand for theaters. Let's say it's like peak winter, right, which is I think the lowest demand for movies. Is also when the movies suck the most. So, you know, that makes sense. It's post-Oscar season, basically. You know, in that season, you can do other stuff, like maybe, I don't know, concerts, right? You can do concerts, you could do dance, right? Like, you could do dance lessons even, right? Like, you could have that spot reserved. Like, make your place a place where people think, when they think of the theater, or the art house, or whatever, they think simultaneously with, this is the place I go for culture, right? Have a little gallery for the local artists. Offer your wall space for free. In my local theater, there's a ton of wall space because they've basically destroyed everything in there because they have no money to maintain it. So it's just flat walls with like multicolored paint. It looks so tacky. Why don't you put some paintings from local artists up there and say, we're not going to pay you for the painting, but if someone wants to buy it, they can buy it from the wall. There's restaurants that do this. I've been to many of them. Where they have paintings on the wall, and you'll see a little QR code, or you'll see a little tag on the painting, right? And with that QR code or tag, you can actually purchase that painting, picture, whatever it is, from that wall. And the theater now has something to put on their walls, and the artists, again, love the heck out of you, and other people get a free viewing of these things. They get to walk through and just look at them. This is the kind of stuff. Why not? You have a wall. Like, just use the wall. Like, it's just a no-brainer. No-brainer. Okay. There you go. Let's see here. Okay. Then this gets me to the concession food. We've talked about restaurant food. Now let's talk about concession food. If you don't know, movie theaters are basically a popcorn business. It's one of the reasons that they're failing. Popcorn isn't a sustainable business model. Surprise, surprise. And we need to fix that. So how do we fix concessions? One, we don't make concession lines take 20 minutes. That's one way you don't do concessions. That happens a lot. Part of that has to do with helping with automation on the theater as a whole. AMC is doing a thing right now where they're reducing their employee count by cutting like tasking that doesn't necessarily have to be done. For example, tickets. My local theater, they've combined the ticket buying process with the popcorn buying process, which is a disaster because it makes it take a lot longer to get your ticket if you just want a ticket. You're also competing with people who want food. So you're in the same line, and that makes it take forever. But there's better ways to implement this system of saving money by having less employees. Some of that has to do with projection. Some of that has to do with cleanliness. Some of that has to do with the ticket buying process. Some of that has to do with the monitoring of security on the doors to prevent people from theater hopping. There's a lot of different ways you can solve these things with technology, and they could explore them. Some of them could be kind of trendy and feel kind of modern and new and make theater feel like a new space. Some of them might be, for members, having a tap-to-enter pass, right? Or something like this, where, you know, if you have the subscription, you can get into any theater room and it's auto-locked or something like this. I don't know. You get what I mean. Think more about ways to automate smartly and not hurt your customers, not make it feel cheap, right, to reduce the employee count needed to run a theater. But in terms of concessions specifically, I have this video to share with you. So, let's see here. This is something I came across semi-randomly, and I thought it was the perfect example of what theaters ought to be doing. I'll summarize it real quick for my co-hosts here, because I know they won't be able to hear probably.
I'm pulling up YouTube right now.
Okay. But basically, this is a local movie theater that's not in a chain. You know, it's just a local theater who during COVID and when they, you know, were seeing low attendance, figured out a new business model on their popcorn. And basically what they started doing was making gourmet popcorn, is what they call it, which is fun. So I'll play the video, and you'll get the gist of it. See if I can play it in a way, because it's a short, so I don't know if I can show this properly or not. Maybe the best way is actually full screen, so I'm going to do that. Oh no, we need audio.
For a family. I've been in the movie theater business for over 35 years now. And when the pandemic hit, we were really like, what are we going to do? And I always had this vision of having different types of popcorn and flavors for our customers. And as I saw the customers, and they were coming in and using a lot of different salts and flavors that we had that was in cans, I said, we can make our own. So we started making our own popcorn, and that's how it all began. And it just kept going and going, and now we have customers that are coming in, they're asking for it, they are driving up here to get it from all over. We are shipping it all over the United States. Just having a really good time doing it. So that's basically how it started. Well, the popcorn business.
There it is. So that's a little small business who understood how to make a business, unlike the big corporation. So what they did was they said, well, we're not really a destination, right? Like, there's not really a reason to come here other than the movie, and that's just locals. Well, how do we make ourselves stand out in such a way that you honestly couldn't get an experience like this anywhere else? You make crazy popcorn that you literally cannot buy anywhere else. This, to me, is also kind of a no-brainer, because this doesn't cost that much. Guess what? You call this guy up, and you make his day, and you say, we'd like to order 5 tons of this. 10 tons of this. You know what I mean? Can we help you? Can we invest in your business so that you can make a industrial pipeline? Right? I've actually, after this video, I looked up industrial popcorn making to see how it worked, because I was curious. And it's definitely possible to make crazy popcorn like this on an industrial scale. It's not scale limited to a small size. So you come up to this guy. How much do you think he'll take for 50% of his business, or maybe 49 if you want to give it if he's insistent on retaining ownership? I don't know, $1 million maximum. Like, like maybe $2 million. Like, maybe if this guy's going nuts over there, like, it's so cheap to think, like, what are these people with MBAs doing in the AMC office is beyond me. I have no idea what they do for a living. It seems like nothing. So things like this. He said that people were coming from all over. Regional traffic is not a thing anymore for theaters. You need to attract people regionally. I mean, even start competing with your theater. Like, if other people are going to be slow and boring, I mean, free market, it happens. You just win, right? Like, make your traffic regional. Another way to make your traffic regional, and this kind of ties into our topic for 3 weeks from now, when I'll be doing another topic segment, which is live music, which is probably Ben's favorite topic.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear the next segment. What you have to say about that?
That's some cost there.
Oh well, I'll give you a spoiler. I'll actually pull up the numbers right now that I have in front of me. This will be the spoiler on the end numbers. Of course, we're going to go over the actual business stuff in the following show.
Yeah,
but
we talked quite a bit about this.
Yes.
On our Discord channel.
Yes. But actually, here, let me guess. Let me let you guys guess. The parameters here is I'm building my own theater from scratch. So that's a big expense. It's a mortgage, so I'm not paying it all up front, right? We'll be talking about that in the future. I'm hiring 20 musicians. I think Ben said the minimum was 18, but I ran it with 20. Hiring 20 musicians, and there's 2 management positions required to run the theater. So, I mean, when my management positions, I mean high-level management. I don't mean like, just like a middle manager. I don't mean that. I mean, those salaries are going to be much higher, so I had to price that in real quick. And so one of them would probably be the music director. The other one would just be the theater director or something like this, right? And we've got $11 tickets for our live show, which is dirt cheap. Like, it shouldn't be $11. It probably, in reality, would be much more than that. But I wanted to put a number that I know for a fact people would come from all over the region to come see the show for. So $11 is what I put in. What is your... this is napkin math. The numbers will be revised for the next episode, so it'll probably be lower than this somewhat. But what do you think the total... let's see here. The total cash flow per year would be. How much... So after all the expenses and all the revenues, how much per year... You guys in the chat can guess as well. Per year do you think this endeavor would make? Building theater from scratch and everything.
Can you give us like a point of reference of like like what a average theater might see or something?
Well, the point of reference will be AMC made $8.5 million last year. That's a bit cheeky, but
that's so much lower than I would have guessed. But I guess it was still 2022. I'm sure it'll be higher this year.
That's in profit, right?
Profit, pure profit.
Okay. And is the question for revenue or profit?
For it's cash flow, so it's net. It's just net revenue. So it's just all expenses, or all profits, or gross income minus net expenses.
Okay.
You're looking at like year one, where you also have paid to build the thing, or beyond that.
The caveat is the down payment isn't. I was trying to get an average sort of general idea. So the down payment is not in there, like stuff like that. So the opening year is obviously going to be probably not profitable, but that's not the problem. rough guess.
150,000.
Okay, that's not bad. That's not a bad guess.
Is this for one theater?
One theater.
I'm thinking there's a lot of movies that are shown every day. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, this
the expense.
I should have said something else. So the seating for the live music show is 125 seats with
125. Isn't that? Huh. Oh, actually, no. Some movie theaters are pretty. Never mind. I'm thinking Sorry, I'm like used to like the Rutgers movie theater. That's like tiny.
Oh, sorry. Hold on. I misstated what I was saying. Regular tickets are $11 per week. That's actually what it is. It's actually $29 a week is what I priced for the show, which is again still probably too low. Live show.
You said $29 per week. What?
Sorry, per ticket.
Oh, I was gonna say okay. All right, 29. Oh, okay.
Which is still too low. Probably could charge much more than that.
For one theater. I don't know. I'm bad with. I was saying
there's 200 seats in that theater, and that show occurs twice a week, all year round, basically.
100, 400. Oh, it's gonna be a decent bid then, right?
Ben was actually not like the farthest off. 99 Crimes is $1,000. Yeah, not quite that bad.
100.
Yeah, hopefully you make more than 1,000. Yeah.
Yeah. No, not 100K. You went in the wrong direction. It's actually higher than 150. So I'll spill the beans. So it's going to be $257,000 a year, which for one, this is net. This is after you've paid even yourself your salary. If I am the theater manager and I'm paying myself my salary, I've already paid for it, right? So this is net profit. This is money that can go back into the business or go to the investors, right? Like that's what that number is. $257,000 a year. Part of that's going to be because I don't have, or this theoretical position does not have, it does not have the weight of debt from the 2000s, right? Like from 2008 ish era. So I don't have to pay that down, which is what's holding AMC back. But in this case, since we're starting from scratch, we make $257,000 in a normal year, and I think kind of lowballing on the price of things in general, and not even properly accounting for concessions. $257,000 doing live shows. That's where the bulk of the money comes from, actually, in this calculation, is from those twice a week live shows. Let that sink in. So, is it not profitable to give people a unique experience at the theater? Is that really? No. I mean, not the napkin math. I mean, of course, we're going to go through it in detail later. I might realize that I left something out. Whatever. I didn't do this with rigor as if I'm going to do this tomorrow, right? So, but next time I will come with a little bit more rigor. But that napkin math, $257,000, that's enough to get up and do it. That's actually, here, I can show you a tip on how you figure that out. I actually haven't done this math, so it'll be a sobriety test as to whether my intuition on that's enough money to pursue the project is correct. So we take that amount and we divide it by the capital expenditures. So the money that you had to put in the deal to make it happen. And that gives you something called a cash-on-cash return. Nerdy stuff, but, we'll worry about that later. So the total money in, maybe I don't have that written down because I was focusing on monthly. No, actually I have it. I don't know if this is the right number, but let's say 2.5 million, right? Some of that's going to be amortized. Okay, let's take what's a good number? Let's take 20% of that as the let's take 30%. Let's be generous. 30% of that is the opening year expenditure. So we do 30% times 2.5 million, and we get 750,000. I can tell you right now that is a glorious cash-on-cash return. So now we take 250,000, we divide by 750,000. Our cash-on-cash return is 33%. To give you an idea of what the rules for real estate, now real estate's a completely different business, so it's not really comparable, but just to give you an idea of what people are willing to put in on for investment in a normal industry, right? That's straightforward, right? Is they typically want a cash-on-cash return between 6 and 8%. We are at 33%. Higher is better. So that is an astronomical cash-on-cash return. So, even if, let's say, we had to pay all of that up front, I wonder if that would be enough. Yes, it would be a 10% cash-on-cash return. So, yeah, this is a good idea, is what the math is telling me. In short, if you don't want to hear that nerdy stuff. Okay. So, someone can do this. Okay. What's some other stuff? And of course, we're going to come back to live music is a whole big topic. That's why I want to separate it into its own thing. Like, you can do. There's so much more than just playing a music to picture, which is glorious in of itself. But like you can do such great stuff. Like imagine you have, let's say you're playing. Do I have the film on hand? Let's see.
Oh, I don't know if I missed this part, but you have to pay for the music.
The rights, right, to the music?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like the biggest thorn in this idea side is the rights for music. It's a very... that's the roughest part by a long shot.
Yeah, and the cost of, like, producing, even if you get the rights to do it, like, actually producing a format that is, like, able to be done in film, arranging it for your ensemble and things like that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So when I go back and I redo the math, I'll include more line items for sure. But we're also missing profit line items too, like selling the live performance. So you take your best live performance, you record it, and you sell it. Is one thing you could do. And that's niche. Like that's something you can't. It's not mass produced, right? Like you actually went to that show, and here's the recording of music from that show. Like that's something people really appreciate. That's very personal, right? Anyway, here's a film that I haven't seen it, but from what I know of it, would make a fantastic experience. Perhaps the music is too big. I don't know. Ben would have to tell me. To do with 20 musicians.
You know what? I need to I have that too, right over here. I need to sit down and get all the way through it and remind myself. But my impression is, some of the scenes in particular, like the big ball scenes. I mean, you could do it probably in a reduced form, but you're probably gonna be missing something that is
rather essential.
Yeah, a gigantic ball, like a full orchestra, it's
but here's the thing,
sweeping gestures.
I guarantee you, if I did this with this film, I could probably, at least temporarily, hire 20 more musicians, because this show would probably be one of the more popular ones. Why do I say that? Because I can pair it with so much stuff. This is culture. So much culture is packed. I haven't watched it yet. I already know, though.
One of the most massive film productions of all time.
And guess what you can do? I don't know. Maybe you have willing employees come to the show in ball gown attire. Maybe you do a social media campaign to invite other people to come in ball gown. You make events. That's the point I'm trying to make. This is an event. It's not just one screening of many. This is special. You know what I mean?
What is that movie? I cannot.
It's War and Peace.
What is it?
War and Peace. It's a very long film, which is actually part of the point. It's
okay.
How many? It's 422 minutes.
That's a long film, yeah.
It's a very long.
So you have book long? It's a book, right? Okay.
Yes.
So what you do in your
1,400 pages long.
Wow. Okay.
So what you do in your theater is in your lobby you have a cocktail hour. You have cocktails. You have a cocktail hour. You have stuff going on. You have little drinks, and you have people having an excuse to wear extravagant things that might not be even expensive. Maybe even 3 hours before that happens, you have a little bazaar in front of your theater where you have people sell. I actually know some people who have Victorian-esque boutique shops around here. It's not that expensive. Obviously, you're not going to. It's not going to be like this, but people will enjoy that. And you don't have to do that either, right? But and then they do that, and then they're happy, and they've got their cocktails, and their children are happy. I don't know if this is a movie you can bring your children to. I have no idea. But
yeah, War and Peace is not. It doesn't have anything to. I mean, it has some death in it, obviously, but
Okay. Then you go over to the theater, you watch the first half, then intermission happens. Intermission, you have maybe someone as one of the characters. I don't know, I haven't seen the film, so I can't, like, say specifically what. But, like, you can do cool things, and then go back into the theater, watch the second half, and afterwards you can surprise, I don't know, well, this movie was made in 1967, so you'd be hard-pressed to find someone. Well, actually, no, it might not be. No, it's not bad at all. You might be able to find someone who was on this production. And maybe you have them come over. You pay for their flight, and you give them some honor. You'd be surprised. You might not have to pay them that much. Like, you know, like things like this will bring you ridiculous quantity of crowd. Like, ridiculous quantity of crowd.
yeah, I also, I would guess that, well, one, the rights to the, like, the music would probably be much easier to acquire due to Russian copyright law. Whether the question is, how well preserved is the score, or would it have to be reconstructed? That I do not know. I do not know about the Vyacheslav Ovchinnikov archives. He's the composer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting question, too. But here's the cool part about this, though. If you can scale this, right? Because the idea here is not to just do this at some random mega theater in Metropolis. The idea is to be able to do this in every theater that you build, right? So, like, as long as you're building the spaces properly, it should be viable. These numbers were done with my small town area. So imagine if you can charge easily twice as much in a metropolitan area and expect twice as much crowd. Well, what you can do is you can keep scale. You keep building these. You keep building those experiences. What ultimately happens is now you can have a corporate level staff that maybe does the arrangement for the entire chain. You know, things like this, the economy of scale is what it's called, right? Like, as you get bigger, there are certain efficiencies that start to become available to you. And in this case, music might become easier to handle, you know, as scale happens, you know.
If this became like a big thing, I can imagine that movies would be made specifically for that. Kind of like how, I mean, this is kind of a bad, this is not like a example of something that, you know, didn't really go too great, but like 3D movies, where like people made movies for 3D specifically and stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. Theaters used to impact the way movies were made a lot. Even just the sound systems, right? Like when there were big pushes, this is a bit of a digression, but there were in the sort of there was like a mini sound war that happened in the 90s and 2000s, basically. I believe that's the right era. And in the sound war, you had different standards of sound production competing for who would be the standard for these big chains, for like Regal and AMC, and et cetera, et cetera. So one of those is like Dolby, like, I don't know, they have such crazy names, I can't remember them, like Dolby such and such Cinema XD, blah, 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 right? Like, you know, and these would actually dictate sound design because it would limit or accentuate different freedoms for the sound designer, right? So, like, now movies would start to be made to make the theater feel bigger, which is a choice. That's an artistic choice. It, like, forces an artistic choice, right? You know, in the zeitgeist, basically. So if you do stuff like this, where you have intermissions, you have music, guess what's going to start happening? Especially if you're doing what I said in the prior parts of the list by being independent on production, some people start making movies so they can pitch it to you, so they can show it in your theater, so they can take a slice of your prosperity, which is great for you. This is a win-win. Everyone's happy, right? So yeah, like, live music is a huge topic. That's for another day. I'll just rattle off a few others because I'm going a little long. But let's see what else here. Well, I covered a lot of it. But let's see. Oh, here's something that bothers me as well. Filling all the seats of the theater at any cost is absolutely required. Theaters have a rigid ticket schedule, which makes sense because that's where it comes from. It made sense in the era where movies were all the rage, right? You just have a standard price for different times and different movies. So if you're seeing the new blockbuster movie at prime time, then you're going to be spending maybe up to double of what someone who sees that same movie in a matinee, right? Okay, fine. That's an okay business model. But in the era where movies are struggling, one thing that you really want, again, is the scarcity, right? Like what I was talking about earlier, the mimetic desire, right? Like people want to go to things that are scarce, right? Because it shows value. Scarcity shows value, right? And that's not the only point, but one of the things you can do is absolutely sell out every weekend, especially weekend, not matinee, especially sell out every theater, every last seat filled. Well, how do you accomplish this? You do some interesting stuff with your tickets, and there's many options. One, you could do something that's kind of like an auction, almost like the way eBay does things, ish, right? So you'd have to do a few things to make it so it doesn't feel like you're hunting actively for a ticket, right? People don't want that level of resistance between you and buying them and buying the ticket. They don't have to worry about an auction, right? to get their seat, or whatever. But you can do interesting things via algorithms and potentially with AI, right? So like you have the price dynamically change on the site, and once they click buy, it locks the price. Like that's just the buy. And you dynamically change the price such that the last ticket buyers will tend to be, and you buy your specific spot in the theater. That was a great invention I actually don't know who invented it, but the theaters adopting this was a great idea. It was buying a specific seat. But everyone buys their own specific seat, and, the last seats are likely going to be the worst seats, right? That's just how economics works. And those seats, you all of a sudden, you drop it into a flash sale last hour before the show happens. These movies, those seats are now $2, $3. What's your floor for filling those seats if you're the theater? Technically, you took an L on that $2, but you also technically took an L on the empty seat. So what's the problem? What's the problem with filling those seats? Is it the perception that filling those seats at $2 makes you look cheap? Because I can tell you for a fact, the long term of it is if people are able to be in these packed theaters feeling what it feels like to watch a blockbuster with their community members again, to cheer along with their heroes again for these classic stories, to sort of feel everyone catch their breath again, you're again saying, why am I doing... Why would I... Streaming's okay. Like, maybe I'll pay for the subscription anyway, but, like, honestly, like... I kind of like, I don't know, the experience feels cheap compared to going to a movie theater. Good.
Okay, but why wouldn't everyone just wait till it's on sale?
Well, that's why I said you have to do it like algorithmically, right? Like, so you could do it such that like once ticket pressure buying starts again at the last minute, prices start spiking again, right? Like, or something like this. So, you have to do it intelligently, basically. Yeah, so like things like that. So like, if it's the last seat in the theater, last hour, maybe that seat's actually $50 and you screwed yourself by waiting, right? Like this kind of becomes a thing. And there's many implementations for that way. But whatever you do, pack the theater, because the long-term game is you want people talking about your film in a communal way. You want word of mouth to be the way of movies again, not social media only. Social media is great, but not social media only. You want them to be interpersonal things that start to happen. After the movie, you saw Inception, right? This is something... Saw Inception, saw Interstellar. I saw Inception with my dad, I believe, or maybe it was my whole family. And then I saw Interstellar in college with Alex Bocchieri. Shout out to Alex. But with both movies, afterwards, these are both Nolan movies, but that aside, with both movies, the movies were so interesting enough that right afterwards, the automatic desire is to pause to talk. If you're not with crowds of people, or you're alone, God forbid, right? Like, you have no one to talk to. You need the crowd. You need the crowd. The crowd is important for the cachet of this idea. Okay, and I think that's all I'll talk about for now. There's other stuff for in terms of like selling collectibles at the theater right out after you leave. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can do. But hopefully this gives you a taste of what's not being done. Some of it, like I said, is more obvious than others. Like some of it's a little bit more risky. Kai says that was how I felt after seeing A Quiet Place. Absolutely, right? Like the greatest films inspire. You don't want to wait to get on like Twitter or something to talk to fake people. You want to talk to the person right next to you if you have one, right? Like you want to talk to everyone there. You want to even maybe talk to a stranger about it. That's how like interesting it was, right? Like you're like, oh man, like you hear someone have some hot take on it, like sitting in front of you. You're like, really? Like is that what you really think? Like, you know, this actually happens. Believe it or not. It's hard to imagine in our sort of like computerized mentalities these days. But this happened. I remember seeing these things in theaters not too long ago. You know, like 5 years ago. Less than 5 years ago, you know. So yeah, like this is this kind of stuff that we need. And again, none of these things are, besides fixing their pipeline, which I think is imperative, it's critical. Besides that, the rest of the stuff is varying feasibility. Some stuff is easier than others, some is more expensive than others, some of it's literally $0. But I want to give you a gamut of things that theaters could be, but they're not. And hopefully, maybe someone sees this who has a bit of money and it's going to go do it. Rip off my ideas. I used to be a little bit close-chested about some of it. But at this point, I don't care. I just want someone to do it and do it properly because I don't want movies to die at the rate that they're dying. And they're still dying despite Barbenheimer, Sound of Freedom. They've got a lot of debt issues over there in the theaters. So that's my segment. And next time I'll talk about live music.
Nice. This has inspired me to go to the spreadsheet of our schedule and add how to fix arcades.
Ooh, you know what was on my list? Arcade gaming, adding it to the art house.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
having an arcade,
like with truly unique arcade games, not like, you know, stupid stuff.
Pac-Man but big.
Yeah, exactly. Live sports was on my list as well. Projected onto big screens.
Wait. Why don't we take the bar experience and put it on a big screen? Maybe not, you know. Maybe not like the bar. You can also differentiate yourself from the bar, not only by having the big screen, but also making a different vibe. You know what I'm saying? A more movie theater.
Who doesn't
vibe,
want to watch like, you know, the year's best, you know, the most anticipated football game on a gigantic, potentially IMAX, depending on what theater you are? Can you imagine?
I mean, you wouldn't be using an IMAX camera, right, for a sport.
No, yeah, you would see the pixels, but like I still think it'd be worth it to project that big just for the novelty, you know.
Right.
99 Crime says some local theaters have arcade games in them by me, but I think unique arcade games would be cool. Yeah, by me they have arcade games too, but they're not unique. That's my problem.
Yeah, I think the Rutgers cinema has, I feel like it has an arcade, like one arcade machine. I feel like I don't know what it is. I feel like I haven't been paying much attention to it, but I feel like I've seen one before in there. So.
Like 99 Crime. Here's a good question for you, because I know you're into the arcade games. How much money would I have to pay you to build me an arcade game to put in my local theater or in a whole theater chain? Let's say I'm willing to buy like literally like 200 units of an arcade game. Like how much would I have to pay you to do that?
We're talking about like some sort of arcade cabinet with like, you know, like a custom for the theater type thing with like its own game. And stuff
I guess it would vary. Okay, let's say you had a team. You had a staff, and you know, or let's say none of you guys are co-owners of some company. You don't pay each other or whatever. How much money would I have to give your team to build something unique? You know, 200 units Gadzooks. Yeah, 200 units. And you're gonna lowball yourself, I guarantee, right? Right, like you're probably not gonna think big enough.
But you mean like, so we are talking arcade cabinet style, right? And not like something more.
No, whatever he wants.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Just assume I'm paying for all the expenditures. So I'm paying for like, I'll give you the money up front for your budget to build the things. You've already come up with the schematics and everything. We know exactly how much it's going to cost. I'm going to give you that up front. For the software and design, I'm guessing somewhere at 40,000. Yeah, that's not enough, bro. You should be asking for way more than 40,000. That's for sure not enough. Do they have to build the units themselves or just build the prototype? Let's say like manufacturing is not an issue at all, right? Like it's just a question of money. So I just give you the money to whatever you need. I give it to you up front. You don't have to worry about financials. And what money on top of that would you want? Like just free to has for those units. 40,000 is not nearly enough.
Like what you would want to pay yourself to do that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the right way to say it. Yeah.
Okay.
How much would you pay yourself, Nathan, to do that?
Oh, I mean, I'm not in the arcade sphere, so I don't really know what goes on. At least I'd rather the development of arcade stuff. So I'm not entirely sure what goes on there. I don't know what. Isn't because like modern arcades are just like they don't use retro hardware anymore typically, right? There's not really need to, right? It's just
that's
like,
not a me question. I have no idea.
Okay, well, I don't think so. I don't think I do. So at least I would actually be able to know how to do it because I'm not familiar with how to develop for retro.
So if I were to buy some random arcades or like just regular old cabinets from eBay, it would cost me like anywhere between $500 and $800 per unit. If you're not charging at least that much, then you're wrong. So yeah, so I would say you should probably ask for like $200K, and guess what? To the theater, it's going to sound like nothing. It's literally nothing. It's literally absolutely pennies. $200K
well, AMC
for something unique.
Whatever million.
Yeah, well, AMC they're kind of in a pickle, but yeah.
Are they getting a massive cash injection from the stocks? Like, what happened?
Oh, they did, and it saved them. They were going to go bankrupt otherwise. So they came out of bankruptcy to get into a low cash flow position. So it did help. It's not enough. It doesn't bring them out of the woods entirely.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. 99 Crime says, I know in Japan the developers of arcades, Sega and Namco still act as part owners of the machines and collect dues on each person that plays. That could be an arrangement. 100% could be an arrangement. As a theater, I probably don't even care about making that much off of the arcade. Like the token price or like the specific like per play price isn't going to interest me as much as the volume that I can get inside the theater because I have something unique. So
maybe you can use your tickets you earn from the games to like get a discount on the ticket, like movie theater ticket. I mean,
all this stuff is such ripe. We're all talking good. This is great. Like this is fantastic idea. So yeah. So anyway, that's my segment. I'm sure I hope this will spur some conversation. And maybe one day I'll get to do this. Who knows? In 30 years, who knows? But hopefully cinema is alive and well. Like even today, they got the arcade industry in a chokehold. I bet their control on the per-user plays probably makes the upfront cost of the development not as high. Of the development. Oh, yeah, that's probably true. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, I will turn it over to Nathan for arguing with Reddit. Thank you so much for listening to me rant about how movies can be different. Always check out our catalog if this interests you. There's almost something adjacent to this that will also interest you in our catalog. But not only that, take a look because there's such wild stuff on there. The titles alone, like you might think you're looking for something else about movies, and then you come across, I don't know, some wild other topic, maybe about the KGB and music, right? Like something like this that Ben has done an episode about. So, check out our catalog, and definitely like this. Oh, something I never say. Subscribe. I never say subscribe. I don't know why. Please subscribe on Rumble or YouTube. It helps a ton. Talking about mimetic desire, having a higher subscriber count is very helpful for mimetic desire. So please, if you could hit the subscribe button, costs you nothing. And the worst you get is a live notification and one video a week. This is not a spam channel. So, hit the subscribe button, like button, and we'd much appreciate it. And go to mixedmediapodcast.com for the Discord and anything else you'd like to see. Okay. Shall we move into gaming?
That was a longer segment, I feel like. But yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
Mixed Media Gaming.
Welcome to Mixed Media Gaming. Today we're doing the arguing with Reddit. So if you don't know how that works, I'll be looking at some Reddit hot takes and seeing if I agree or disagree, or maybe somewhere in between with them. Look at my live reaction. I've never seen them except the one I've chosen for myself. My co-hosts have chosen 2 other hot takes, one each, that I've not seen before. So that'll be 100%. I don't know why that's a weird phrase. It'll be 100% interesting. That'll be very interesting. I guess I can't guarantee a percentage.
Only 96% interesting.
Scientists say it's only 99.99% interesting. So can never get that last 0.001%, unfortunately, but I'll try. So before we do that, let's reintroduce ourselves. So my name is Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and a video game developer.
Oh, and my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
Hello, I'm Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer.
All right, and one thing I noticed is that our whiteboard, you have to hide your thing, Ben. It's just all over the chat.
Yeah, it's not the best design.
Yes.
I didn't think about that. I mean, it's space efficient, right? Like it makes sense why the chat would go on the whiteboard, But yeah, all right.
Ready?
Yeah, I am ready for the first take.
Okay, so this one's from Ben. Ben, you want to explain?
Yeah, I'll just read it because it's pretty short. If I can... Oh, here we go. This person says, "Y'all not rocking with voice protagonists. To me, it's weird for every other character in the story to speak, and then you are silent and awkwardly skipped over when you click the button to say something, and then other characters just start talking again, like, what the heck, LOL."
Yeah, that's kind of funny. There's I think I saw a recent meme. I forget what it was, a meme about, like, I think the fact that Gordon from Half-Life just doesn't say anything ever. I can't remember what the meme was, but I don't know. I just remember that was a recent thing I saw. But yeah, that is a thing that is very strange. I read. I think it's in Cyberpunk 2, or I think in Cyberpunk as well. Your character doesn't speak. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I feel like that's the case. I don't know. Actually, this post, I literally could have sworn. Oh, here. Yeah, someone mentions Gordon. Mario didn't talk. Link didn't talk. Simon Belmont didn't talk. Doom Marine didn't talk. Gordon Freeman didn't talk. I was more surprised when your character in Fallout 4 did talk. I guess some of us are just used to different things. That's the thing. So the thing with the voice protagonists, right? Sometimes it's an issue. Sometimes it's like a hard issue of like, well, we have just, or actually, okay. So sometimes the developers would like to make you feel like you're the character making the choices and whatever, and so they don't want your character's voice to get in the way of that, in a way that could be like sort of contradictory to what you're thinking, right? So maybe your character does something, and maybe it's like I don't know, they do something, they make a decision they can't go back from, right? And for you, it's like, wow, that was a tough decision, and for them, their voice might be like, oh, that was like all right, so whatever decision, or the opposite way around, right? Whereas like the player's like, easiest decision of my life, so simple. The character's like, that was such a hard decision, I can't believe I did that or whatever, You can never know what the player is actually going to feel about everything. So if you want to make your player feel like they are the character in the game actually, then you have a little bit of an issue there, right? And you kind of see that with like certain games that have like characters that do speak, where you can choose sets of dialogue, like Detroit Become Human, for example. Your character might say things like you might even see read the text of like, here are the options, right? And then you select it, and the character just says it in a different way than you expect it to come out, right? Like it may be more aggressive or something like that. You're like, wait, hold on, that's not what I signed up for. That's what I meant, right? So even with the literal textual hint, the developers might still not be able to predict what you're even just interpreting the text as, right? So a lot less hope in figuring out what you're going to be thinking, especially when everyone thinks different things about different situations, right? Everyone's going to feel a different type of way. So that's where you get the issue there. So I don't really know what the solution to that problem is, right? Like for those types of games, there are certain types of games where you are not the character, right? Like the character has his own independent brain or whatever, and that makes more sense when you're doing stuff. It makes more sense why they should be able to speak and stuff like that, right? In that scenario, I'm not too sure why they wouldn't be able to. Looking at the examples, like that is interesting. That like, some of these games like say in Mario, right? Like in like first few Marios, no one ever spoke, right? There's no. Is there dialogue in the first? Are we talking about? We're talking about we're talking about like when I first heard the question, I interpreted it as like vocal, like as in like auditory stuff, right? But there are many games where there's like text, so I didn't consider that. I don't know if the question is including that, like text based responses, stuff like that. Because then in the case of like Detroit Become Human, or sorry, not Detroit Become Human, but other games where you might select a text option or whatever, but no dialogue actually comes out, that might not be included in this question. And come to think of it, Gordon from Half-Life doesn't even have text. Like he doesn't say a word. Like he doesn't react in any way. Anything.
I would guess the question is probably thinking of both things. Like you could play Pokemon, right? Like Pokemon, like everyone else talks except for you.
Right, yeah. In that case, I think that also probably has to do with like maybe like a expression type thing, like the developers wanting you to make you feel like you're the character. Although in some cases, I don't entirely sure. Like Mario, I don't know if there's much like emotionally at stake here. You know what I'm saying? to getting the wrong vibe of what's going on. Same with Half-Life. Playing that, I still I would say Half-Life is more up to a variety in terms of how you might feel about events, but I still don't feel like if Gordon reacted in a way you didn't expect, that like that would be too crazy. I feel like that would actually only I don't know. I feel like adding Gordon speaking, whether it's text based or an actual voice, would just be better, but I suppose that's a hard thing to imagine. I'm not really sure. I don't know why Mario doesn't talk. Actually, I never thought about that. I suppose there's it just doesn't need to. It's like it's not like I don't think that would add that much to the game. He
makes sounds while he's jumping around.
Yeah, like I'm not even trying to mimic it, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay. Is that it for that one?
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that, honestly. It's just like, it's kind of strange. I suppose, but like for things like Mario, I don't know why that helped, but I also don't know why they didn't just like, it seems like a default thing to do, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, there's a character in a game, you probably should say some things or something. I don't know. It's like a basic human concept. Basic things humans do. as I fail to do it. But so I don't really know why I chose not to do that. But
Yeah. Oh, Ben, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. That I clicked on. Is Mario actually a human?
yeah, Mario's a human. Yeah.
Really?
He's,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he's fairly tall. By the way, I don't know why he's around. I think I know, but if I recall correctly, he's tall.
I wouldn't know. So he's a human, but they're also just like talking turtles.
The Koopa
And-
Troopers, yeah. And you have like a toad that doesn't really look like a toad in. Well, no, Toad's a mushroom though, right?
Yeah, and Yoshi's like a dinosaur.
Yeah, she's a dinosaur. Yeah.
It has
Alright.
right. Yeah.
Donkey Kong is giant, a very large donkey that looks more gorilla-like than a donkey.
Wait,
really.
it's
Looks
supposed
like
to
a
actually
hybrid.
be a donkey?
Oh, I don't know about that. I have no
No
idea.
way.
I don't.
No, it's
I
a
don't, I hope
gorilla.
not.
No,
But
no.
I feel like Donkey Kong looks like a cross in a way, right? Or does he look like? I don't know. I feel like he doesn't fully look gorilla-like. I think his face makes him look
No.
donkey, but maybe.
I
Maybe I'm
refuse to
wrong.
believe this. It's too crazy for me. Nine Crime says Mario has a voice actor, but there's hardly any dialogue in most of the game. Yeah.
Like, what about the first few games? Like, is there any dialogue? Type in they play Super Mario World. Super Mario World's like Super Mario. I would say it's a later Mario. I guess in terms of the whole history of Mario, what was it? That's like a middle Mario. I don't know, but like early Mario, like first couple of Mario's, right? Like 2D side scroller Mario. There is no
Yeah.
voice actor, right? Or at least maybe I think there might be sounds, maybe.
No, there are sounds.
But-
There are definitely sounds. He makes sense.
I can imagine him jumping, but I can't remember if that's like an early Mario. You know what I'm saying? Or that's like a later Mario thing.
I think it is, yeah. Or
Okay.
maybe I don't actually know.
Mm.
Okay, next one.
I just realized Mario's an Italian plumber, but how do we know he's Italian? Like, where did this come from? You can't hear his voice. Just the name is Mario. Like, where does this lore come from? There's nothing other than
not
his name
supposed to
that
be
would
that
make you think
deep.
he's Italian. You know?
Yeah, no, he is supposed to be an Italian plumber. And Luigi, of course.
Yeah, Luigi. I guess you just take their both of their names and you're like, oh well, surely they're Italian. Like.
Yeah.
Also, the concept is quite strange. This must be like someone like had like a weird NyQuil dream and thought of this game. Because like, how do you think? Oh, they're plumbers, so they're living in a world with giant pipes that they can just travel through. Like,
There might have been
where
drugs
did this come from?
involved. Who knows? I mean, maybe mushrooms.
Oh, that's where Toad comes from.
You got to save the princess, right?
Right, every single time.
Yeah, that's the conceit, right?
And
Yeah.
what's Bowser? Bowser's like a angry turtle. He's like a sheltered animal, right? So like a tortoise. Like, what is he?
I
I
never
feel like
thought
I used to know
about
what
this.
Bowser was. What is? Let me see. What is Bowser?
Kind of looks like a spiky turtle, I guess.
Yeah.
Like a snapping turtle, maybe? I don't know.
Oh, he's like one of the Koopas in a way, right? So he's like the Koopas are turtles, right?
Yeah,
he's a
they're
big turtle.
turtles. Yeah.
Or Bowser's a turtle-like Koopa race. Okay, Koopas are not turtles, I guess. They're their own race. You know, they are a turtle-based race. Yes. Wow.
Kai says, also I feel like silent protagonist in the sense here is when you don't make actual language speech, random karate yelps, like Link from Zelda doesn't count, question mark.
Yeah, I would assume not. Yeah, I assume that wouldn't count.
Yeah. 99 Crime says, the plot for the original Super Mario Bros. Is so weird, it's hard to imagine Nintendo coming up with it.
I don't actually know what the plot is. But the thing is, they came up with the Donkey Kong first, right? Well, I suppose at least that came out first. I don't. I guess maybe Mario was like in their brains beforehand. I have no idea. But I feel like the idea of Donkey Kong is not as strange. Like it's like weird, right? It's like a donkey throwing barrels at you. Like are you playing as Mario in that game? No, you're not playing as Mario. What are you playing as?
Aren't you playing as Donkey Kong?
No, Donkey Kong's the thing that's throwing the barrels at you, right?
Oh, right.
What are you playing as in that game? I can't remember. I don't think you're Mario, right? You're like, I don't know what you are, but at least like that's like a more like it's just strange. Like it's like weird. It looks like someone. Oh, you are playing as Mario. Oh, really? So they had, okay, I don't know, but at least it's like, you know, it's like you took you went to like a random idea generator and like you just you just kept clicking the button. You know, like, you know, main character donkey, or I guess gorilla, name donkey. You know, weapon of choice barrel. Like, I don't know. I feel like you could, like, you know, it's not that hard to come up with that, I guess. But like, man, the Mario universe is strange. Otherwise, I don't know how you come up with that stuff. Like, yeah, like what's that character in Mario Kart? Who obviously I'm sure appears in another Mario. Who's like faces like a tube. You know what I'm talking about? Like it's like a pink tube or a purplish tube.
Oh yeah.
What is that? I can't remember her name.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Like, what is that even?
I don't know.
What is that supposed to be?
I have no idea.
Anyways,
Acid dreams.
Yeah, that's Mario.
909 Grime says Donkey Kong was supposed to be a Popeye game, but they had to rework it since they couldn't get the license.
What? Wow. All right. Wait, so I'm curious. Would you be playing as Popeye, or would he be the one putting the barrels, or would they, if there were even be barrels, maybe it would have been something else? I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Nintendo.
Oh, Birdo. Keikairo says Birdo. I think that's actually the name. Yeah, you look it up. Yeah,
there's a Nintendo World, I think, or a Nintendo Universe at Universal that just opened, and it, like, you would think, like, how do you do this? And honestly, they did the best way that I think you could possibly imagine doing it. It actually looks pretty sick in terms of the set work. In terms of how fun it is to play the games, it kind of looks maybe a little bit too childish for adults to super enjoy. But in terms of like the setting, like, it's kind of crazy. They really envelop you into the blocky world.
I'm looking at it now. Yeah.
Okay. So, let's see here. This next one is from you, Nathan.
All right.
Oh wait, wrong one. Hold on.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Kai says you'd be playing as Popeye. Oh, I see.
Oh, okay, I see.
Oh wait, I can't.
So I wonder if there was a gorilla involved or not to begin with. I suppose that wouldn't quite fit the Popeye lore.
It'd probably be the evil dude. I forgot his name. The antagonist.
I don't remember.
So go ahead and explain, Nathan.
Okay, yeah. This one's titled "Releasing During the Year of the Masterpieces," and it says this year has been the best year game. This year has been the best gaming year since 1998, at least for me. This was also the year that I released my first game, and he links to it. My game is in no way competitive to Baldur's Gate 3, Zelda, Diablo 4, Starfield, etc. It would be like comparing plankton to blue whales. However, I do feel like it has been surprisingly hard to get noticed on any level, and I see other devs, bigger and more polished than my game, struggling too. Does anyone else released this year? Do we all get trampled by the giants? People have limited time, and even people like Ralph from Skill Up have said that there hasn't been time to check the indie scene this year. Any thoughts? Okay. So, I don't like. It doesn't seem to me that it would make sense that if you release a new game, that the giants, as they're called, are so giant actually that they would they could do that, as in like this year has been so crazy in terms of the giants that they would have caused like some sort of indie drought or something like that. And one thing that I think people don't understand, maybe the people who watch this podcast understand, because I probably said this 9,000 times, is that the market of people playing video games is like pretty split, right? So people play different types of games, and things like Baldur's Gate 3, Zelda, Diablo 4, and Starfield simply won't appeal to many people. Right? Some of them are like things like they might just not have the hardware to play whatever it is, right? They might not have a nice computer or a Nintendo console, which would be maybe you could play Diablo 4 otherwise. But the things that would be required to play the game. But they might not be interested in AAA games in general, and many people just don't play them. Partially because they tend to be more expensive, and people have distrust in AAA studios, and people tend to maybe find that indie games have more soul in them or whatever. There's like a billion reasons you can think of this, but it's not like you're actually always fighting over the same piece of the pie. Like, yeah, there are people who play both, like myself, for example, and yeah, you are collectively fighting over the same people in sometimes, right? But there's also this large piece of the pie that's like untouched because they're just indie enjoyers, or mostly indie enjoyers, right? And so it's like, the AAA space might have the best year it's ever had ever, right? But it's like they're not touching a lot of people. A lot of players simply aren't going to be changed by that, or will be minimally changed by that. And as for why this person's game didn't really work out well, like, it's just it's one of those. This is one of those. So the game is called Single Malt Apocalypse, and you look it up. It has like no social media presence, and it's clear that not really any marketing was done. There's one trailer that has 16 views on it, and Ben has disappeared. But it seems to me that like simply people didn't know about the game, so people didn't buy the game. So I mean that's not the interesting part to me. I'm not gonna analyze like the game and why it may have failed. That wasn't the interesting thing to me about the post. It was more like, is it possible that all these big releases could be interfering with like indie releases? I think that, yeah, in part maybe, but a lot of that, like if your game doesn't succeed, I would be hesitant to blame it on that. And also, I don't know if this year is particularly a big year in gaming. Yeah, okay, we had Baldur's Gate 3, that went kind of crazy, right? But I feel like we had similar things probably like last year. When did New World come out? Was that last year? New World might have come out last year. Oh, I got a pizza place. That was not what I'm looking for. New World game. It's 2021. That was 2 years ago. Okay, so 2 years ago, right? We had New World, and what about Lost Ark? When did that come out? Lost Ark. These are games that had that was 2019. Okay, maybe I'm really bad at judging time. Okay, so but regardless, New World was bigger than Baldur's Gate is now, and so was Lost Ark for sure, right? So was Cyberpunk 2077, which came out end of 2020, so 2020, 2021 type deal. And so, yeah, I don't know if... although it's where Lost Ark peaked in 2022, though. So, actually, that was last year. Elden Ring also peaked in 2022. Big games happened last year. I don't think this year it didn't seem to me to be bigger, at least as looking at it. Maybe the numbers say something different. I don't have the numbers on it, I suppose. But it doesn't seem to be a particularly interesting year for gaming. But yeah, I wouldn't say that if you're releasing a game and it didn't work out, I don't think it really has anything to do with large games being released.
Cool. Oh, was Ben okay? He came back.
I don't know.
I'm actually having connection issues with Rumble right now. I think we lost connection for like enough time that the stream froze, unfortunately. So I mean, it's back. The nice thing about the way Rumble works, like as long as you reconnect, it'll like stitch back to where you are now. But we lost our audience.
Okay.
On Rumble, so which is the natural consequence.
99 Crime said regarding the prior thing about Popeye and stuff like that, it probably would have been Bluto. I'll be real, I had never heard that person in my entire life, so I'm looking up the image. I feel like I've never seen this person in my entire life. I don't know how it's escaped me, but is it Bluto or Bloodo? Bluto, right? That's what I assume.
I don't know.
All right, well. And then Kairo said, there will always be people who want random silly indie games or even slightly smaller AAA games instead of big games. Yep. Pretty much. So, yeah.
Cool. Next one?
Yep.
Okay, so this one is from me, and I kind of scrambled to find one, so it's kind of a cheap one. It's one of those posts soliciting hot takes. So
okay.
So you can rack to however many you want, but I'll put it up.
Can you post a link, by the way, so I can like view it separately?
Oh yeah, sure. Let's see.
What's your gaming hot take that? Oh wait, I was gonna use this.
Oh
I saw this.
no!
Well, no, I didn't see this. I saw I think a variation of this. I think I saw. Oh yeah, no, it was about bad game design things. Okay, no, this is different. What is your gaming hot take that would? Oh, sorry, you want to say it?
Oh, it doesn't matter. But what is your gaming hot take that would get you downvoted into oblivion? Mine is that going forwards, devs of Souls-likes should start including accessibility options so that, I mean, we've talked about it on the podcast, like, I think multiple times, but that's just an example.
Call of Duty is a mid-franchise? Maybe? There is a... I mean...
Is that a hot take?
Yeah, is that a hot take?
I don't know if it's a hot enough take.
I don't know if I'd go to say Call of Duty is bad. No, I don't know. I wouldn't say Call of Duty is bad. Call of Duty is just not that great. It really. So I'd say less than mid. Honestly, I don't know.
Okay, you're getting into hot take territory now.
Except Rebirth Island, which was like something that's part of the first Warzone, and then they got rid of it for Warzone 2. So I don't really know why they did that. That was a crazy idea in my opinion. That was like the best. It was like a small scale. It fixed the issues with battle royales. Like the issue with battle royales is that here's a hot take. Battle royales are bad. Like inherently, like they're
that's a hot take.
Inherently they're flawed. Like there's like not that I don't play battle royales and I don't have fun with them. Like as in like there are so many issues. It's just so bad. It's like if I were to ever make a game, right, and I had like guaranteed that people would play it, had a big following, whatever, right? I'm not making a battle royale, like almost on principle in a way. Like it's just like it's so much wrong. I don't know. Anyways, but, thing with Warzone, right, and battle royale is like. So a couple things you're like, okay, like you can get in a situation where you run around the map for 9 years, then you randomly get killed, and it's over. You have one gunfight and it's over, and you redo the whole thing, and you have to wait in the queue for 100 or so people to join back in the lobby, and you got to load this large map, which takes forever in Warzone for some reason, and then finally you're back in, and then you get going. What Rebirth Island did was I don't know if Rebirth Island might have been one of the maps actually. I don't remember what the mode was called. I think Rebirth Island was the map on it. It has a name, I think. I can't remember what it's called. Is it called Insurgency or something? I don't remember. I don't know. But it was like a small war zone. So it was like a battle royale. Way smaller map. So you weren't running around for 9 years. You're probably going to find someone fairly soon, right? Respawns. So you can, instead of like... I feel like... I remember when I heard that Warzone had the ability, to buy. You can the Gulag thing, right? Where essentially when you die, you have a chance to fight in the Gulag, and then you can come back. You have a chance of living, and then if you lose that, or if you die again past the Gulag time, you can be bought by your teammates. It's like, wow, that's a really good solution to the issue of your team. You die, and then like. Wow, we gotta restart.
Essentially, the buyback mechanic it makes like a sub game. The buyback mechanic in Warzone, I think, is pretty genius because it makes like instead of like let's say you lose someone and it kind of gets stale because your play style has to slow down. You know what I mean? Like to compensate for the fact that you can't engage like a full squad anymore. You now have like a mini mission. Essentially built into the game mechanics where like now your mini mission is to retrieve your teammate, That's great because oftentimes you'll get into a situation where you're all geared up anyways. It's like, what am I doing? Just walking towards a circle? Like I'm already in the circle. What do I do now? They have like missions and whatever, but anyways. I was like, oh, that's pretty good stuff, right? Like that's pretty good. And then you played this I don't know, I'm gonna call it Rebirth Island. You play Rebirth Island, right? And it's like, oh, actually, the way it is that as long as any team member is alive, you will just respawn after a certain timer. So you have to get a full squad for it to actually like kill the entire team until there's like a certain like almost like a what do you call that? I can't remember what it's called, but in sports. But essentially, when the time is up, essentially. Oh yeah, like a sudden death. Yes, exactly. Where when it gets late in the game, your teammates just don't respawn anymore. That takes a bit of time. It's like, wow, it's like,
a lot more condensed action. You know, like you have multiple chances. You know what I'm saying? You will probably respawn at some point. You know, I don't remember if you can be bought back in that game. I don't remember. But the maps still feel pretty large, even though it's a smaller, you know, a smaller map, really, like by a long shot. That's just good. I don't remember how does that have to do with hot take. Oh yeah, that's the only good part about COD, really. That's like the only not like, you know, very
that
like
is a hot take.
yeah. The rest of it, I don't know. I suppose I wasn't there in the glory days of COD. You know, I didn't play the original MW2, so sorry, I can't really comment on that. But I have a feeling I'd find it the same, similar to modern Call of Duties. What other hot takes do we have? I said battle royales aren't great. Like loot boxes and other, like, there shouldn't be gambling, and it's essentially gambling, right? So they should be regulated as gambling, things like loot boxes and stuff like that. I wonder that probably would have a bunch of legal ramifications I'm not thinking about, but of like random things that like you technically gamble in life outside of video games that aren't regulated as such. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, what about like a crane game?
Oh, skill cranes should not exist. Like that is like it's such a scam. I don't know. It's like, okay, so you want the item in it, right? You know, they always have, some of them have like a premium, like, oh, they have an iPhone in it or something like that, right? That you'll never get or whatever. And then they have, like, ignore those as in, like, you will not get the item. Like, just take that and remove it from your mind, right? That's not a thing that exists. Then you have the ones that, like, might actually get something, like the teddy bears and stuff like that, right? And random small trinkets. You can just buy it, right? Like, why would you just buy the teddy bear? Like, I don't understand. Like, you know, like, the net, like, like, there's a net loss here, right? Just buy the bear. Buy the bear yourself. I understand, you know, it isn't, you know, there's no, like, you know, reward system going on in your brain, but just play anything else, right? Like, just, it doesn't drain your money. I don't know. Certainly there are more fun things out there than the skill crane, right? I don't know. But, yeah, I'll talk about that more in the arcade episode, but many other hot takes I have that get me down. That even get me downvoted into Oblivion. I don't know. I guess it's something that
honestly, anything on Reddit
disagree
gets you downvoted into Oblivion unless you were literally part of the like tyrannical majority. That's basically how Reddit works. Like it extremifies, like, because it's just how the voting system works. Like if you think about it, like, you know, like if you have one downvote just at post start, you're not going to be seen.
yeah.
But if you have like one extra upvote in a lot of subreddits, that's enough to like catapult you upwards, or maybe just a few, and then like everyone who agrees just dogpiles. Reddit's like voting system is not conducive of getting average opinions, which is great for arguing with Reddit.
Right. True. KKR says because you want to win the teddy bear. We can, like, you know, I don't know. It's like, what about like I had less of an issue with games where you win tickets, because it's like, oh, like the thing you're playing, you get as much as like proportional to your skill level or whatever, right? It's like the skill crane, like you're just gonna probably end up like leaving with nothing. You're just like, dang. Yeah, at least like, I don't know, like at least you play like a game on the arcade cabinet, you're guaranteed to get something out of it. You know, like it's like, you know, it's like a salary. Like you are guaranteed to get the money, probably. Kai said, I had a friend who was the first author of a science paper once and responded to a question in Art of Science, and he still had people downvote his response for explaining about the paper he authored. Jeez.
Yeah, that's Reddit for you.
Yeah, that is wild.
Yeah.
Let me look at some of these hot takes here. Online multiplayer isn't fun anymore. People take themselves way too seriously. It seems like every lobby has someone trying to make it as a streamer. I had some buddies over recently, and we played Halo 2 multiplayer, and it was the most fun. I've been playing a shooter since the old Lampard days. Yeah, that is an issue, right? Well, one of the things I've been enjoying about playing BattleBit is that I haven't been playing, you know, large-scale multiplayer games like that recently. So it's kind of nice in the fact that your entire experience won't be ruined by that one guy who goes crazy in the game. Not by fault of his own, really. You know, he might just be naturally gifted with the sticks. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not his fault. But I'm not. So, and also, I think I mentioned before, you're gonna have ranked games and stuff like that, so that everyone's equally balanced. But then it's like, well, now everyone's fighting for their lives because they're all on the same level, right? So they're all trying to get that edge, trying to push themselves to a slightly faster limit, right? So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is like a change in times or what. Because back in the day, you had like Quake, right? Like you've seen some people play Quake. It's crazy. I would not want to be in a lobby with certain Quake players, right? So I don't know. Maybe I don't know how. This person's talking about Halo 2. I don't know. Maybe it's that. Well, Halo 2 has, and I suppose Quake has larger lobbies, not BattleBit sized lobbies, not Battlefield sized lobbies, bigger than like Valorant 5v5 lobbies, right? So yeah. If you aren't playing a game for a living, you'll be fine with whatever you choose to play. It's not the non-meta that is holding you back. Another one, arguably hotter, it's not always your team's fault, right? True, I guess I would agree with both of these. People complain about PS.
Sometimes it's your team's fault.
Yeah, sometimes. People complain about PS and Xbox. Oh, here's the thing, though, about large-scale multiplayer games. It's like way harder to blame your team when it's such like a large aggregation of things going on. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's no way you can single out like, man, if that guy just did this one thing, we would have won. You know what I'm saying? Like that is not a thing you could think about. At least it's very rare. People complain about PS and Xbox, but I think Nintendo is the most predatory, non-consumer friendly company out there. That is definitely something that can get you downvoted in places. Is Nintendo predatory? I know people talk about that a lot in terms of like the fact that they sue like a lot of people for making fan-made games, or they'll sue people for pirating copies or distributing pirated copies of games that they no longer distribute anymore. And it's like. And the fact, the predatory thing might be that they don't release those games, right? And I know didn't they have like a subscription service or something like that for the Switch, I believe, that would give you access to some older games. So I think that was like maybe a sort of almost like a response to that, like, hey, pay a subscription, here are some older games. And it's like I understand why they're doing that, right? It's like in part, it's like, well, if they just let all their old games, all their old classics that everyone loves be out there and like available openly, no one will play their new games, or at least a lot less people, right? Not nobody, obviously, but there would be a lot, probably a significant amount of people. At least they probably figure there would be a significant amount of people taken away from that and they're play the older games. But is that like a good thing to do? I don't know how I feel about that. That sounds very strange. It's like I don't know. It's like. Like we don't see that with movies, right? Like movies are taking out of movie theaters. That's different, I think, right? It's not like the movie is literally unavailable to be purchased, right? You can still buy a copy of Titanic. There's never going to be a time you cannot buy Titanic, right? Like you'll always find the classic movie somewhere to be bought, right? But you can't do that with a lot of classic Nintendo games. So I suppose, I don't know. It's kind of scummy. PlayStation and Xbox don't do that, as far as I'm aware, right? I feel like was it the older Xbox store that said that they would not be selling like older Xbox games anymore? I can't remember. I feel like I remember thinking that was kind of reasonable or something like that. I forget, to be quite honest. But I don't know. I'm not a really big Nintendo fan. Partially because it's just hard to like. If I want to get one of the games, I have to buy their console. I am not buying their console. Not because it doesn't. I find that, like, for example, the Switch doesn't bring enough to the table for me as someone who doesn't play games on the go. Like I don't play mobile games either anymore. So like that aspect doesn't entice me. Right? Like sitting at my desk and playing a game. I like the larger screen. I like the option of having a higher graphical fidelity. I don't know if whatever sauce Nintendo is cooking up would be enough to make me ever buy a Nintendo console. Not ever, I guess. I guess they can always, things change or whatever. But at least in the current state, I don't know if I could ever be pushed to do that. 99 Crimes said, also as a rebuttal, the Metropolis movie was basically lost for 50 years. If I recall correctly, that is. I have never heard of that movie. Is that a popular movie?
I doesn't ring a bell at the moment, but
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
but yeah, sometimes movies get lost.
Right. See, next hot take. The reason gaming has become accessible with microtransactions and incomplete games is because most consumers are idiots. Yes. Actually true. I don't know if that's, I think it has to do with the fact that people aren't willing to pay more for video games, and also because people just fund games that just are just trash. Like as in in terms of on principle, companies having very trash policies and people just buying the game regardless or whatever. And I guess I'll read one more. Many gamers let their strive for ultimate graphics performance get in the way of actually enjoying the game. Turn off the FPS overlay. It's like everything is an over-concerning benchmark competition. I know some people who, I feel like, I know some people who, when they're playing a game, the likelihood of FPS being mentioned is going to be quite high. Like, I got X FPS in this game. Like, I was ran pretty smoothly or whatever, right? Which is understandable metric to have, right? It's like you went to a movie theater and you're like, hey, the screen was pretty good or something like that, or something like that. I don't know how to measure screens, so that was a strange way of saying that. I guess it's not a concrete number you can put to a screen. Maybe it just gives you some easy way of understanding its quality. But something I've noticed as my graphics card is aging is how little I actually notice the difference between 60 and 144 FPS. Because when I got this computer, 144 FPS is kind of the norm, and I have a 144 hertz monitor, and that was kind of like, hey, that's nice, right? But as the quality as the speed has decreased, I haven't really cared that much, I've noticed. And the same goes to, at work, I have a 4K monitor. I didn't actually realize that for the longest time. And then I saw on YouTube there's a 4K option. I was like, wait, is it a 4K monitor? It was. And so I was switching it from 4K to 1080p. I'm like, I can't really see. I see the difference, but it's so tiny that I don't know if I would care that much. Now, the screen's not that large, so the pixel density is is kind of high regardless. So on a bigger screen, I can definitely imagine. The fact that I can see the difference at least a little bit on that size screen makes me think like, okay, bigger screen, okay, I got you. I definitely can understand the 4K or the 1440p or whatever. And my screen at home, I have a 1440p screen, and I prefer that 1080p. I can see a little bit of difference, but it's not oftentimes not great, especially in a video game where there's a lot of things moving and stuff like that, right? And it's like, I don't know if I'm playing like Warzone and I'm like, man, I'm so glad this is 1440p instead of 1080p on my monitor. I don't know if it's something I really think about. So yeah, I don't think on people who buy crazy graphics cards. I mean, maybe that's my hot take. People who buy crazy graphics cards are insane. They're buying it for gaming. So yeah.
Yeah, I have a 3080, which is pretty beefy, but I actually don't use it for gaming. For by and large, it's mostly for video software.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Kai said, the fact that you even said 144 FPS tells me that graphics need to be shut down until we could figure out what's going on.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I don't get it either.
Ambiguous statement.
Okay, well, all right, you're done, right?
Yeah, that's that for that one.
Okay. We will take us out of this segment, and then maybe Kai will give us a response in the meantime.
Sure. Thank you for watching this segment of the Mixed Video Podcast. Yeah. Next we'll be talking about Ben will be. I'm not sure what Ben's reading actually. I haven't checked, so this will be a surprise.
Oh no, I messed that up.
Ben,
sorry. Go ahead.
Ben will be doing a review of something. Do you want to tell people what you're doing a review of?
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the score for LA Noire, the video game.
Okay. The video. Okay, I did see this. I saw LA Noire. I actually forgot. I saw LA Noire in the chat. I'm like, there was an LA. I don't know, because I'm so used to you reviewing movies. I was like, there was an LA Noire movie. I was like, interesting. I feel like I vaguely remember something like that. So that might be something that actually exists. I don't know if I'm making that up in my brain or not, but it didn't even occur to me that you're talking about the game. Wow, that's crazy.
There are many neo-noirs set in Los Angeles.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. Actually, I think the spelling is incorrect though, Irving.
Yes,
I think
yes.
the game has an E on the end for reasons that I don't know.
Yes, I did. I did realize that after after I posted the thumbnail, I noticed that was the wrong spelling. I had spelt it right in everything and everywhere else except for the place that's hard to change, of course. Excuse me.
I'm currently posting LA Noire memes in chat because LA Noire is a very memeable game.
Oh, is it really?
There are like two memes that only just exist from LA Noire that are very popular. I posted some GIFs, but
Kai had responded, by the way. He said, "Ignore me. I was joking. I'm a curmudgeon." No, it's okay.
Okay. Gotcha.
Text jokes are hard sometimes. There's no intonation.
All right. Well, then, we ready to get started?
Yeah.
We haven't played the mixed media music, have we? Right?
No. Let me do it.
I forgot it makes a note, like there's a person saying that. It's just a visual thing to me.
All right, here we go.
Mixed media music.
All right, welcome to Mixed Media Music, a portion of Mixed Media Podcast dedicated to all things related to music, with a particular emphasis on classical and media music. My name is Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer, and I'm the main host for this segment, and I'm assisted by my two co-hosts, and I'll let them introduce themselves quickly.
So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
My name is Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and video game developer.
All right, so tonight on Mixed Media Music, we are going to be talking about the music of the 2011 neo-noir video game LA Noire, which, if you have not been watching live, it does actually have an E on the end of noir, despite the fact that we do not have that on our little title card graphic. Yeah, so I'm going to preface this by saying, one, I've not played this game, but I know it's a kind of popular game. I don't know if popular is the right word, but a well-known game.
It's a classic, I think some people would say,
okay.
Although I've not played it.
Yeah.
So
I remember seeing the ads on the subway in New York for this game were crazy. They were everywhere. Ads on TV. It was advertised like a movie, basically. And I understand it's a cinematic game, but I don't really know much about it otherwise.
Yeah, I kind of briefly, just skimmed something about the plot, but I don't know if it's really worth trying to focus too much on that. I'm just interested in the music, and I've talked quite a bit about. Well, I think I've spent an episode talking about the music of Chinatown, if I recall correctly, at some point.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I spent a lot of time on this show talking about James Bond, which is not a neo-noir, but it is in the spy detective-ish world. And I've spoken about this. I don't think I've actually said it on the podcast, but I know I had a discussion at one point with, I think, 909 Crime on our Discord about how that whole world of music is honestly probably the thing that I like most as a composer for media stuff. Not that I've had a chance really to do it, but I feel like that's honestly where my strength lies, in this kind of noir-ish and kind of spy, James Bond-ish world. So I'm always looking for good examples of that kind of music. So I decided I was going to listen to the soundtrack for this video game, this classic, I'm told. Okay, so like I said, it's a 2011 game, and the music is mainly by brothers Andrew and Simon Hale, with some contributions from some guy named Woody Jackson, and it has some songs performed by Claudia Brucken. I don't know who she is. Actually, I don't really know who any of these composers are. Although I understand that the soundtrack itself was pretty well received and won a number of awards that were available for video game music back in 2011. Now, if you go to the promotional material for the game and also to the Wikipedia article, it's a little bit confusing. There's some lines that I don't quite understand. So, not that Wikipedia is a source for anything, but just interesting to note what someone on the internet passing as an expert has said, and then combine that with some of the official promotional material. So we have this quote from Wikipedia. Andrew Hale felt that composing the game's score was about setting a mood, attempting to compose music that felt accessible to players. The score was inspired by films in the 1940s, though the team avoided specifically composing for this time period, instead opting to focus on that after the music had been produced. I have no idea what that last sentence means. They were inspired.
They focused on it after it was produced?
The score was inspired by the 1940s, but they avoided specifically composing for this time period and only focused on that after music was produced. What does that mean?
What do they mean by what is after? Wait, what did they how did they impart that much influence after it was produced?
I don't quite get that. So I combine that with another quote from Andrew Hale, the composer. He says that he felt that the composing the game score was a flexible process, quote, about setting a mood as opposed to a, quote, mechanical process in which music was specifically composed to fit the time frames of the game. The composers decided to focus on this after the music was produced. Now, in conjunction with the promotional material, which notes that one of the main features of the game's music is that apparently there's specific musical ideas that indicate when you are near a clue or evidence, and also specific musical ideas that show that there's nothing more for you to find in the area. So I'm assuming what that means is that they just we have some we're not describing this very well, but that we actually have music that is generally supposed to be about setting an atmosphere, but somebody later on decided we'll use this kind of motif, whatever, to indicate you're near a clue, and this one to indicate that you have exhausted the area. Although they note that this is only just you're not necessarily supposed to notice this detail, but if you do, it quote enhances the gameplay according to the official promotional material.
How are you not going to notice it?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's we're going to talk about subtlety.
Okay.
So I don't know. We'll get into that. I'm also interested in the idea that apparently they felt that they put a bunch of actual jazz tracks from the 40s in there, but they wanted to avoid just doing that because apparently this would not resonate with players today in 2011. And I find that, specifically they used the word was not accessible, which I find to be really an odd choice. I mean, yeah, you don't necessarily have to just make a score with all jazz, but I wouldn't say that having a lot of jazz would make a score inaccessible if you're playing a cinematic neo-noir game.
Might be expected even.
Yeah. So I don't know exactly what jazz was included in the actual game because that's not on the official soundtrack. Okay. So turning to the music, my very, very brief overview is that I enjoyed the score quite a bit, but it kind of begs a whole bunch of questions about what is a specifically neo-noir score supposed to sound like. Now, like I said, I mentioned James Bond earlier. I think it's in the same family, but it's slightly different, so we're going to remove that from our conversation. And when we look at neo-noir scores, something like Burn-On Herman, like Taxi Driver, or the classic Chinatown. There's some like definite features I come to my musical mind when I think of a neo-noir score. Okay. And in some ways, these things are not that musically complicated. There are a whole bunch of standard instrumentation things you can do, particular chords you can use, and particular sound effects. I mean, you've pretty much you're kind of obligated to use kind of prepared piano, like taking like a coin, scraping it across like the strings of the piano and things like that, or just kind of low clusters, or on the piano, or mid-range clusters in the strings, well, on muted strings. You're kind of obligated to do these things. Now, what kind of defines, to me, a good neo-noir score, though, there are a couple of things, and in some ways, I really like the general atmosphere of the score for L.A. Noire, but it doesn't quite. We'll get into issues of subtlety and variety. Okay, so, and to me, the one I really want to compare it to in particular is Chinatown, which I know we've talked about before, but it is such a masterful score. It's a neo-noir set in Los Angeles in the same exact time period. It's hard not to compare, and honestly, I'm pretty sure that the Hale brothers, composers for this score, were thinking of it pretty explicitly, because the main title for this, low trumpet slash flugelhorn, that's just kind of pulled out of Chinatown. It's not literally the theme from Chinatown, but it is, that's what they're going for, 110%. Okay. So my notes on this are kind of all over the place. So this may not be the most organized thing I've ever done here. So the first thing I noticed when listening to the soundtrack for L.A. Noire, my first thought is, there's a whole bunch of things in the score that sound like they're pulled from Star Wars, and in particular,
in
particular from The Empire Strikes Back, and this shows up in two places. Not shows up in two places. It's coming primarily from two places in The Empire Strikes Back. The first being the Battle of Hoth. Now, these classic neo-noir scores, one element that is kind of, common to all of them is kind of being built off ostinatos, or kind of like repeated short little musical ideas, and particularly rhythmic ideas in a neo-noir score. So kind of these, small rhythmic ideas that are repeated. And they like to focus on building from the very bottom with interesting percussion sounds, often kind of somewhat mechanical. Now, why that is, I'm not entirely sure. If I could hazard a guess, I would say that it kind of reflects some kind of like aspect of, grimy and like early kind of, not that early, but like early relative to like 2023 mechanization, and dispersonal life in the city. It would be my guess as to why that is just kind of a standard thing. Now we find this in particular, this kind of mechanical ostinato base layer of an ostinato in in the Battle of Hoth in The Empire Strikes Back, and that again makes sense because we're focused on these gigantic machines that are unstoppable and coming for the rebel base, the AT-AT walkers. Okay, so that makes sense, but there's a way you can do that sort of thing. That, like, if you look at Harem-On and Taxi Driver, if you look at Chinatown, that has that identity, but doesn't quite sound like it's coming from Hoth. And now, the way in which, I'm not sure I could come with, right now, the language to describe why, like, what the difference is, but whatever they do in LA Noire, to me, it sounds like it's coming from Hoth, and not from the music that has just over time become the base layer of this dark and impersonal city of the neo-noir. Again, like I said, I probably, if I sat and thought about it for a while, I could maybe come up with a better way of describing what the quantitative difference is. But to me, being really familiar with The Empire Strikes Back, I'm listening to this, and music that I assume is from kind of more the action scenes, chase scenes. It just sounds like I'm on Hoth, which is kind of odd. It does kind of take me out of 1947 Los Angeles. I think that's the official year it's set in. The other thing that it pulls from in the Empire Strikes Back is some of the kind of aleatoric or kind of prepared effects, sound effects, eerie sounding stuff that we get a lot of in the cave in Dagobah, where Luke goes in and confronts the image of Darth Vader and cuts off his head, and then it turns out to be his own head. Okay, now that is also a feature in this sort of like musical, sort of textures. Obviously, you find them a lot in horror movies, and you also find them in these classic noir scores, but to really totally different degrees of how much they are present. In these classic noir scores, these sorts of sonic effects, I'll call them, kind of eerie, creepy, horror-esque. In these classic noir scores, I find in my analysis of them that they are really confined to where they are, and they're used in really particular moments in the score. So they're not like omnipresent. Now you go to a horror film, and that's pretty much all you get in a horror film score. So what I would say is LA Noire to me sounds like it's kind of somewhere in the middle, where it's a lot more omnipresent than in like Chinatown, for example. But it's obviously not on the side of like, well, this is a full-blown horror, video game. And there again, aspects of it that I would probably be hard-pressed to come with an easy explanation as to why. But to me, they're just very reminiscent of the cave in Dagobah from Empire Strikes Back. So, kind of interesting. Now, I don't think this is probably what they were going for, but it just sounds... The similarities are just so strong to me that I just kind of am like, why am I on Dagobah with Yoda? Yeah. Okay. Now, some other, like, quantitative differences, I think, between something like Chinatown. To me, Chinatown, again, this is not like a good or bad thing, but something that is a really notable difference to me is that in some ways, I'd say that Chinatown is a simpler score, and it's well, so I guess what I would say, how I describe that is that it's got a lot more variety to what's going on, and maybe that sounds more complicated, but the actual construction of each given moment in Chinatown, it tends to be one of three things. So we have our main melody, and our main theme, right? Our love theme. Now we have this a kind of main theme. It sounds very, very similar to the main theme from Chinatown in LA Noire, but it doesn't really reappear. Now, it is pretty much everywhere in Chinatown, in various guises, and it is. We could go back to one of my very early segments where we talked about like melodic transformation. It is transformed all the time in that film. It goes from kind of like a full-blown romance to kind of like suggestive of all sorts of different shades of things. It's quite subtle in what it is doing. Now you really need to watch the film Chinatown and then pay a lot of attention to the score. But in general, the score is really melodic in places. Okay, so it's like generally more lyrical because the melody is often very important to what's going on. We'll also find that we have a complicated texture, but the melody is kind of buried within it, and if you're listening very carefully, you will hear parts of the melody in Chinatown. And finally, in Chinatown, the way that the things are built up is it tends to be like we have it's very multi-layered. We have like layer one, ostinato, then like another ostinato layer on top of it. Something else that's just repeated endlessly and kind of a loop. And we add another layer on top of that. And maybe buried within there, like I said, we'll get fragments of our main theme. So we're kind of going between these three modes. We have, in addition to like actually pulling in real jazz standards, which are in Chinatown as well. But in the written underscore, like I said, we have this really layered stuff, which tends to be for more action-esque scenes. It's not a very action-packed movie, but moments where we have closer to action. So I guess I'll say we get more atmospheric kind of textural stuff when we're with the hints of the melody in it, when our main character in Chinatown is discovering something or thinks he's discovering something, right? And finally, when we have like the full-blown hopeless romance, we get that to a very large degree. So to me, there's a lot of variety, but like the actual techniques for creating it, it's really not that complicated. What is really subtle about it is the way that it ebbs and flows with our main character and what he's discovering and what it is being suggested to him or to us. Right, through all these three different kind of modes of music, they do follow the action very carefully. Although you probably don't recognize that until you've seen the film at least twice, probably more than that. To me, LA Noire is somewhat more complicated, although it has less variety. The way that it's kind of building itself up, it's not the structure is not as clear. It is less. It's less melodic. It's less lyrical, and I'm sure. Sorry, I'm kind of lost here. My notes, like I said, my notes are kind of all over the place. But yeah, in general, so it's less lyrical, and it has to do more, I think, to compensate from the lack of like this kind of melodic grounding that can kind of suggest something to us. Now, again, I don't really know the game. Maybe there isn't as much to kind of, keep us guessing as an audience. But because it doesn't have this like unifying one theme that is often weaving its way through things, the score needs to do a lot more in terms of like creating interesting textures and like hints of melody, but that don't really turn into much of a melody. So to me, in that sense, it's doing a lot more creative stuff, like a lot more. Creative is not the right word. It requires, I think, a greater effort to keep the interest in what's going on musically, because it has less variety and things tend to blend together. In order to make things not blend together as much, in some ways it feels to me like there's just more compositional effort that has to go into that, while losing the compositional effort at kind of really maintaining, following the ebb and flow of the narrative, which the composers said they weren't doing, right? They're just trying to create an atmosphere. So I find that, there's not much just from listening to the soundtrack of LA Noire that really tells me much about the narrative of the game. Like I said, that's seemingly by design. Whereas obviously you're not going to get the exact narrative if you listen to like the soundtrack of Chinatown. But you can, if you pay attention, you can kind of feel a narrative ebb and flow to it. And in that sense, so it's maybe less complicated in construction, but far more subtle. And I don't find LA Noire to be a subtle score. To me, it kind of is basking in some of these neo-noir tropes, maybe leaning, like I said, a little bit more into like a general texture that is, in the kind of horror-esque spectrum, closer to like a horror film. In the mechanical aspects, leaning a little bit more towards like the Battle of Hoth, and like I said, the horror aspect leaning a little more towards the Empire Strikes Back, the Cave of Dagobah. I don't know why that is. I still think it's kind of effective. Like, it does create a lot of ambiance. I'm sure when you're playing the game, if you just stick on the soundtrack to LA Noire, it's definitely kind of puts you in the right put the right atmosphere around you for a neo noir. But it just seems kind of, in general, very same, right? Very much the same throughout, and not leading us on a musical journey. So whether that is to your liking or not, I don't know. I will also note that the 3 songs at the end, I'm not a fan of. I don't originally compose songs. They don't really fit in the right musical style to me, in my ear. And the lyrics are just too, like, they seem a bit more like James Bond kind of pun, bad attempt at like murder humor for a neo-noir. If this was like a James Bond video game, A+, but it's not. Yeah, so it's an interesting score. I think, like I said, it does a really good job of creating the ambiance, but lacking some of that like sense of romance and ennui and like really, I don't know, maybe the impossibility of true romantic fulfillment that I think is characteristic of the great neo noirs. Because without the lyricism, it's really hard to create a sense of romance. Now, maybe there's no. I don't think there's really an aspect of romance to the game itself, but to me, that's also kind of a key aspect of a neo noir.
I was gonna say, how's there no romance in the neo noir? That's kind of crazy.
And maybe there is in somewhere in the plot of the game. The songs at least suggest that they have something like the titles are like. Everything I love, I kill, or I think that's the title of it, or like the other song is like Torched Song, right? Like oh you've like spurned me, so I'm going to like burn you alive or something like that.
Oh my gosh!
I think that's like the implication of the lyrics, right? Instead of a torch song, it's Torched Song.
Wow.
Like I said, it sounds like a James
emo.
Bond song.
Oh, that's I get that.
I looked it up on howlongtobe.com, and it's 21 and a half hours main story, so I bought it. So I'll let you know.
Okay, well there you go.
So yeah, like I said, really good score. I like it as someone who likes noir scores, but maybe just in general too much of the same thing and not enough kind of subtle storytelling, which I think is really important. But like if you're just looking for a score that's going to kind of, give you the feeling of being in a lounge and it's all like smoke filled and people are doing shady things and everyone's kind of got some shady past and some shady present going on, including you. Yeah, it definitely puts you into that world. Even if if you happen to know Empire Strikes really well, for whatever reason, sometimes it will put you on Hoth, and the AT-AT walkers are advancing towards you and your ice fortress. Yes.
Very interesting. I feel like I'm going to go listen to this afterwards because I'm trying to put all these things together. I'm like, this sounds like a interesting amalgamation.
It is definitely it's an interesting score to listen to.
Yeah. Also, people in the 40s, they always dressed fire. Like, dang. Like, and the thing is, it's a really weird sidetrack.
I agree. I thought this on before too. I was like, wow, they really like dressed up for everything, for just existing, for just going outside.
I've seen pictures of my small town, Mount Carmel, in the 40s, and literally, and this is like back then it would have been a mining town, the average person is a miner, average dude is a miner, and they dress to the nines just to go outside, like just to go outside. Granted, it's probably their one like outfit, like their outside outfit, but like still, like I'd rather have one outside outfit that looks that awesome and then go outside.
I've had this thought before of like, wasn't that like really expensive, or like was it just cheaper for these? Like, are these maybe they're made out of more cheap material than like I don't know, like the stuff you'd buy today? Like I don't understand.
I think it's more just a cultural thing. Like you need to have something to look nice out on the town in.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
honestly,
interesting.
We have to bring it back.
Let's say we've regressed.
So if you want to plug for our Discord, where we've been having an interesting conversation about Lindy Hop dancing and whether you can make a fighting game based off Lindy Hop dance moves, which, like I said, maybe we'll move to a new dance channel. But if you do go to our Discord and link in the description. And you want to read all the stuff we've been talking about Lindy Hop. It is interesting that there's like a segment of the Lindy Hop community, particular men, women too, but in particular men, who really do like to dress up like this to go out dancing. Then you get the contrast with
awesome.
Like the people who like wear, like they just came back from like a day at the beach. To go dancing. So it's always an interesting contrast.
Interesting. Yeah. We simultaneous to all the things that we've talked about on the podcast, we also need like a dress movement. Like we need to dress better. Like it'll just all look sick all the time.
I agree. I say as I wear a t-shirt every day. So, you know.
Yeah, exactly. 99 Crime says, this makes me want to listen to and play the game for real. Ben, you should do more game soundtrack reviews. I agree.
Well, I bought the game, so I don't know. I mean, I feel like it would be useful. Yeah, some audience members who also played the game, you know, so have some conversation about that.
Honestly, like if I played games, you know, and like I had whatever was necessary to play this game, I'd honestly consider trying it.
Ooh. Interesting. You got to coordinate something. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's all I have. So,
sweet. You want to take us out of the show?
Yeah. Well, once again, thank you for listening to Mixed Media Podcast. You can catch us live every week, for now at least, Mondays at 7:30. Subject to change in going forward. So you can catch us live, and also everywhere you get your podcasts. Links to all of those, again, also I think in the description. And yeah, you can also, as I mentioned, you can join us on Discord and keep talking about art in general and anything, you know, related to that you want. Anytime. We're always on our Discord channel. Various people popping in and out, not everyone all at the same time, but interesting conversations. Such as I mentioned, Lindy Hop and fighting game moves. If you want to find out about that, again, check out our Discord. You can also support us on Locals. Shout out to our local supporters, Post, Rob Sharma, 99 Crime, K Kairos, and Alex.
Yeah, we'll call him Alex for now.
Yeah, Alex.
I think he was on the He was actually on the podcast earlier. I don't remember if we used his last name or not in the podcast, so I don't know if he'd mind or not. So we'll leave it out for now.
Yeah. So yeah, once again, thanks for joining us and listening and watching.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for watching.
Look, tell a man no trouble. I don't just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then dead I'm on site. Wrong move, I bet they gon' ride. No need for the telephone hype, nah. No need for the snoozing. Big whip outside, I'm cruising. Big stick inside, no losing. Better watch out for the snake and Judas is. Don't ask them who this is. I bet they know what I'm moving in. I bet I show it into a dim. How you hate and then lose again? How you hating my vibes? Why you wasting my time? Getting hype on my line. Tell a man I don't want feedback, I just want relax. Brand new whip, two-tone, I need that brand new hit. You know, like lean back, brand new bits I live in. We back, man, you never gon' like us. Get them on sight now, let them on light. That way they know I'm more righteous. Look at my life, I'm living alright. I'm nice, you know I'm alright. Cause looking like Christ, no need for the hype or fight or telephone vibe.